Attack on Titan, the final season, part 3, gets a 1-hour premiere. Chinese Donghua could surpass Japanese anime in terms of popularity. Michael B. Jordan announces a Creed anime and gives his beginner anime recommendations. Oshinoko's theme song, Idol, is so fire. Hello and welcome to all my fellow weebs, otakus, imagination connoisseurs, and everyone a part of the Post-Geek singularity. Good to see you. You look nice. Welcome to the Otaku Experience. I'm your host, Israel King. Did you do something new with your hair? Or as most people know me, King Tannic. I think it's safe to say that this is going to be the anime of the year. In 30 years, everybody's going to be indoctrinated in like the manga and anime agenda. I'm in love with Princess Peach. Marry me. Wow. What the heck, Studio Ghibli? Or Ghibli, as I've been told, but I've been saying Ghibli my entire life. Here's how the Otaku Experience works. If this is your first time watching movies, light novels, manga, video games, you don't want to hear about any of this. The current goings-on in the anime and manga industry, anime like Wonder Egg Priority, Death Note, Naruto. I know it, you know it. Nier Automata, Licorice Recoil, Bleach, Eminence in Shadow, Demon Slayer. I love it, you love it. Speak Shonen, things like Spy Family, things like Chainsaw Man. Yeah? Yeah, that is a lot to cover. Now, oh my gosh, the AI has risen among us. Cupid's such a good song. That dude is ripped. Wow. Oh my gosh. Wowie wow. What? I don't know if we can show this, bro. Dude. Oh, this is so bad. Cinema, bro. It is great. Typical weeps. Love it. I have focus pills here. And my throat hurts. What? I only take these when my ADHD is skyrocketing. Dude, could you imagine the fights? I'm not editing this out. Anime and Lord of the Rings. Sorry. Disney has a completed Alien vs. Predator anime. I think this sounds awesome. I really want to see this. Oh, dude, it's gonna be so awesome. Fun fact, guys, keep that in mind. If you don't know what that means, when an anime season airs, they air in what are called cores. And tsundere is like that girl in an anime who's like super mean to you, and in a lot of anime will like hit and abuse the protagonist, but it's because she likes him. And then she'll be like, yo, why aren't you into me? And it's like, gee, I wonder why. Maybe because you hit me. I love tsunderes, to be honest with you. They're my favorite. What the heck? Fascinating. It's ridiculous. That is such a cool name. Oh no! What is wrong with my name? What the heck? Oh no! How did they do this? Because we're weebs. We're all single. Oh my gosh. We're all single, okay? It's inherently in our DNA. The tears. This is just insanity. Let me calm down. Look at this. Let's go! Shows fire. Oh yeah, I'm not calling you stupid. I'm calling us. Come on, dude. Okay. I've never seen this anime that you're talking about. This turned into a rant. I said it wouldn't. This trounces the MCU, bro. It'll be interesting to see if they like reference that, and then we could be the few people who are like, I get that reference, whereas the rest of the theater's like, what are they talking about? And it's like, bro, we read that manga. We talked about it on the Otaku Experience.
Greetings, imagination connoisseurs. Once again, it is I, your Duke of Dope Discourse, Robert Meyer Burnett. I invite you to watch and listen to the Designing Hollywood podcast, brought to you by Martika Ibarra and the great, legendary Hollywood costume designer, Marilyn Vance. I am afforded the wonderful opportunity of co-hosting the show. If you are interested in the magic of Hollywood, the design of Hollywood, the clothes of Hollywood, watch the Designing Hollywood podcast, available wherever you get your podcasts from, or find the video version on the John Campea YouTube channel. That's right, the Designing Hollywood podcast. Why would you ever want to miss it? Especially if you love the movies.
Observations with Robert Meyer Burnett.
Listen to that smooth jazz. This, my friends, is a taste of the soundtrack of the upcoming project that I've been working on, True Noir, the Nathan Heller case books based on Road to Perdition author Max Allan Collins' 19-volume series. More on that soon.
Greetings, imagination connoisseurs. Once again, it is your Duke of Dope Discourse, your master of fun and wonder, your viceroy of verisimilitude, your sommelier of sci-fi and cinema, your evangelist of the imagination, and the perhaps never to be defined existential Mr. Rogers. That's right, me, Robert Meyer Burnett. And I am Robcasting at you from right here in the Robservatory. To you imagination connoisseurs, you members of this, the Post-Geek Singularity community. And this is, believe it or not, the 900th episode of Robservations. 900 episodes. You know, there's been a lot of, Joe Rogan has more episodes than 900. But, you know, I'm just one guy in a Robservatory doing episodes, talking about motion pictures, television, comics, novels, entertainment, art, you know, things we like or hope we like. And this show basically is, you know, for those of you who've been here on the channel, these milestone shows sometimes have run as many minutes as they are. So like the 400th show is 400 minutes long. I promise you that the 1000th episode, that's in 100 episodes, is going to be 1000 minutes long. Now, to fill the time, I'm going to work on getting some banger interviews with some great people, and it's going to be a really good show. But again, like certain shows in the past, I wanted to make this all about you guys. And I'm going to read some letters, and I'm going to do something sort of different, only because, now, I hope people don't get mad that I'm going to do this, but there's a method behind my madness. As always, you know, you can send in a super chat or a tip, and we'll talk about it. Whatever you want to talk about, I'm here to talk about it. But when I'm done reading my letters and talking what I want to talk about, I'm going to open the floor, and I'm not going to bring on randos. What I want is I want to bring on individual people and have a conversation. But it's going to be what I like to call pay or play, because I want these to be specific. I want them to be serious. And it's not just a hangout session. I want to hear from you guys. So here's how it's going to go. You don't have to do this, and maybe no one will. I don't know. But here's the thing. If you send me a $10 tip, and you have to send me a tip because it's the only way I can see it, and you have to include whatever your question is, or just say what you want to talk about, and your email address. Now, don't do it now. Don't do it now, because maybe I'll never get to this. I don't know. But when we do get to it, I will send you a link, and I'm going to bring you on the show. So please have a good microphone and a good camera, and we will have a discussion, because there's a lot of people out there that are always talking about wanting to have discussions or talks. And I'm always saying, hey, if you hate what I say or you don't like my point of view, come on my show. So what I want to do is throw it open to you. Now, maybe nobody wants to do this, but the reason I called it pay or play is because I figured it would weed people out that weren't serious. I want serious people. We're going to have some serious conversations, or not. If you want to talk, you can talk to me about anything. I don't care if you're going to talk to me about Star Trek. You want to talk to me about the state of the MCU. You want to talk to me about hip-hop music. You want to talk about fucking and how there's not enough fucking in cinema. You know it's a favorite topic of ours because we didn't do a Midnight Musings this week. Only because I was coming back from Chicago, and I wanted to bring everybody up to speed about that next. So when we get around to it, and I'll announce when this will be open. Don't send me things now. Don't send me things early yet. You can send me tips and questions normally, like we normally do. I'm going to answer those and all that. But bringing people on the show is going to come later. So hold off on that for the time being. We'll see where we wind up. But so first of all, as many of you know, so I can now talk openly about this project. For the past couple of months, since August, my business partner, Mike Bodden, and I
we've started a new company called Imagination Connoisseurs Unlimited. And the purpose of Imagination Connoisseurs Unlimited is to make entertainment that it's so funny. That's so funny. The purpose is to make entertainment that is, first of all, excellent entertainment, that has great people involved, and that will involve you. You imagination connoisseurs in some way, shape, or form have to help us make it. So our first venture as part of this is going to be, as I said at the top of the show, Max Allan Collins, who wrote Road to Perdition, that the movie was based on, who also wrote the 80s comic Miss Tree. He took over Mickey Spillane, from Mickey Spillane writing the Mike Hammer novels. Max Allan Collins is now executive producing the new Mike Hammer. Mike Hammer is Mickey Spillane's great hard-boiled character, detective, do-gooder, who's been around for quite some time and very controversial in his day. But Max Allan Collins took over from the Mickey Spillane estate, from Mickey Spillane himself, to continue to write those books. His latest book about Mike Hammer came out in September. But Max Allan Collins has also had a TV series of his Quarry novels produced for Cinemax. And he also wrote a great 80s comic called Miss Tree that we'll talk about in the future at some point. But we have teamed up with him for our first project to do an audio drama, an audio podcast based on his Nathan Heller series of novels. This is the latest. This Nathan Heller novel, Too Many Bullets, came out last month in October. Now, the Nathan Heller series begins in 1932 Chicago. And for the first audio drama, which is going to be probably 8 hours long, we're adapting the first two books. We're adapting True Detective and True Crime. Obviously, we couldn't call the series True Detective because it already is one. So we're calling it True Noir, the Nathan Heller Casebooks, because that's what these are. They're called the Nathan Heller Casebooks. These are great books, by the way. And Nathan Heller, for those of you who know film history, is kind of the Zelig of detectives. He gets involved in various historical events in his career that tie somehow into whatever case he is working on. And we have already recorded the proof of concept, just a little snippet of what we're doing. And so I like to call it, it's a movie, but without the pictures. So it's an audio drama like you can hear on Audible or Spotify, and we are making it lush. It's going to be mixed in 5.1. But what we're going to do is we are, in fact, going to crowdfund this. And it's really interesting because the crowdfund is, it's incredible. And we're going to do things like, some of the reasons why we're crowdfunding it, well, because I want to do things like make a vinyl edition of the 8 hours. So one of the things would be, and obviously that's not part of the budget of anything, but how cool would it be to get a fold out vinyl of this 8 hour podcast? And hopefully, if it goes well, we'll do more. Now, Todd Stashwick, the actor, who this episode actually is about, because the Starfleet captain who asked me this question that I'm going to talk about later was in fact Todd Stashwick. Todd Stashwick is Nathan Heller. That's right, Captain Liam Shaw is Nathan Heller in our audio drama. We've already recorded the first 15-minute proof of concept. It's being designed right now. I got the original music score, and while the piece of music that you heard over the opening of this Robservations is by our composer, that was an original sketch that he submitted to us as the Nathan Heller theme. And of course, we heard it, and we were all overjoyed. So we're probably going to launch the crowdfund for this in the next couple weeks. It'll run for 60 days because, frankly, we're going to make it anyway. But we need your help because there's all these other things that we want to do with it and promote it. Like, for instance, I was in Iowa and Illinois this week. And I was in Iowa. I met Max Allan Collins, and we went to a speakeasy in Davenport, Iowa, and I interviewed him. So the interview, the audio podcast is going to be available on physical media as a Blu-ray, because when you get it, you'll be able to get it in 5.1. And then I want to do it in Dolby Atmos as well. That'll probably be a stretch goal on the crowdfund. But I interviewed him, and that interview is going to be available on the physical media version. You'll also be able to get a digital download of it as well. And then I went to Chicago with Todd Stashwick, and we took him to his apartment, and we walked around Chicago, and he told us about his life. We went to places that were significant to him when he was an up-and-coming actor, and the highlight of it was he was a graduate, an alumni of Second City, and I'd never been to Second City, and we went to Second City. We didn't even know if we were going to be able to get in, and Todd ran into one of his oldest friends, and his director and mentor 30 years ago just happened to be teaching a class, and they let us in, and we got to go in and watch Todd interact with that class, inspire the new generation, got it all on camera. So you'll be able to see all of that as part of what we're doing. So I am very excited about this new venture. We're going to be developing film projects. We're going to be republishing my comic book, Living in Infamy. Well, it's not my comic book, but I published it under my Ludovico Technique comic banner. It was written by Ben Rabb and Derek Hughes, who have been executive producers of The Flash and Arrow, and it was a 4-issue miniseries about the FBI's witness protection program for supervillains. And back in the aughts, I self-published it myself, and it's been out of print for almost 20 years. We're going to put that back in print and then start making more of them. So there's a lot of stuff that's going on, and most of it is really because of you. Now, I had proposed doing a short story contest and publishing a book called The Imagination Connoisseurs. We are going to do that as well. That is going to start up after the first of the year. And the people that have already submitted short stories, your short stories are still in the mix. Don't worry about all that. So what we're going to do is we're going to publish a book of short stories. We're going to edit them. It is sort of a contest, but we're going to publish a leather-bound slip-cased edition, and we're going to have stories up to 10,000 words written by you imagination connoisseurs, you members of the Post-Geek Singularity community. So these are some exciting things that are happening. Of course, I have another film that I've produced that I actually have to finish doing some editing on called White Devils. We're going to have that done next week. I know it's something I haven't really talked about, but it was based on a play written in South Africa by a famous South African playwright. There'll be more on that later, but that's also coming out. And that's not like I'm busy enough. So anyway, that's what's going down. That's what's on the channel. And also, before I start, I wanted to give a great resounding thanks to everybody that has been on this channel. My compadres, Lael Rockwell, or RM, I like to say. Her name is not... I just say that. It's RM. I want to thank the two of them for being great partners in crime and being on the show. I want to thank Dave Parker for doing Midnight Metal. I want to thank, of course, Dieter Bastian, all the way from Saarbrücken, Deutschland, for being on the show and being a good friend. And everyone else, I want to thank Israel. I played his long trailer at the beginning. King Tannic, Israel King, very proud of him. And while people say, oh, Rob, you guys would get better analytics if he did his own channel. That might be true. But you know what? He can put it on his own channel, whatever he wants. I'm just proud to have that show and his enthusiasm and his love of anime. It fits right in with, look, does it go against all of YouTube's analytics? Yes. And could I make this more of a business if I wanted to? Totally. But we're having fun here. So I just want to say that. And for everybody who's ever been on the channel, people like Lana Ewan, I want to thank Martika Ibarra and Marilyn Vance for letting me do Designing Hollywood. There's more coming there. We got a lot of good stuff. We're stepping up our game there. So I want to thank them. I want to thank DJ for doing Architects of Imagination. If you guys are interested in video games or game design, I highly recommend. No one's watching Architects of Imagination, which is too bad because it's a great show. And DJ does a fine job. So there's all of that. There's all that going on. So that's kind of that's kind of like, I just want to say, thanks to everybody. And I want to thank all the people that have stuck around the channel for such a long period of time. I didn't know it's wild to me that I've done 900 shows. And to be quite honest, I'm kind of running out of things to say. I probably won't ever run out of things to say as long as you're out there and listening. And I want to thank everybody who has supported this channel generously over the years, whether you've been longtime viewers, whether you support the channel financially, whether you just hang out, whether you write letters. I love people who write letters, people who made films for the film festival, which we never quite finished. We never gave out the awards, but I've received so many letters from people who made the movies, and their movies have taken them places, which is crazy and great. That's, it's one of those things where, and maybe we will one day give out these awards, but the people that made the films, it was great, and maybe we'll do it again. I don't know. We'd have to finish the first one. But so anyway, 900 episodes. Now, while I was in Chicago with Todd, he taught me a couple of things. But my favorite thing that Todd and I talked about was what he called Prog core. And Prog core is a very specific combination of stuff. And Todd described it to me as Prog core. Obviously, there's prog rock, there's synthesizer music. It's a certain frothy mix of stuff: movies, music, books, programming. And it's very specific. But Todd was telling me about this. And to define prog core, he started telling me that the Rankin and Bass Hobbit is prog core. The Dark Crystal is prog core. Styx's album The Grand Illusion is prog core. Krull is prog core. It was very interesting, and we did a deep dive on it, and I'm obsessed with prog core. And he wants to do a whole gaming, like a D&D thing, a prog core version of it. And he said something really interesting to me. He was talking about the changes that have happened in D&D and how D&D has changed over the years. And he showed me, and I was not aware of this, he was showing me how a lot of people now playing D&D have a focus on more anime-esque characters. Whereas, and he pointed out that the Dungeons & Dragons movie that we both liked was in the Italian Renaissance. And that was not what D&D players who started in the old days were playing. And I was like, that's interesting. And he was telling me, because obviously he runs D&D games, he says, look, I don't want to be the old man that tells people how they should or shouldn't play D&D, but it's a different vibe. And he wanted to bring D&D back to the prog core of his youth. And I'm like, bruh, I am right there with you. So prog core, let's make it happen. Let's all make sure that Todd Stashwick gets what he wants. Let's start the prog core movement. And part of that question is, what is prog core? And I think Todd would say, well, prog core has very specific tenets, but he would also probably say that it's up to you to define it for yourselves. But he definitely has a very specific, and like, for instance, Excalibur. Excalibur is as prog core as it gets. And Mordred's suit of armor at the end of Excalibur, that's probably the most prog core suit of armor that you can get. And it was really interesting. He tested me. He said, okay, there's a scene, and prog core has something to do with, obviously it's prog rock, but it's also that 70s painting on the side of van vibes, and there's a certain synthesizer vibe that goes with it. Of course, bands like, obviously prog rock bands like Yes songs. It was funny, I never asked him this, but I would imagine that Avatar's got to be a little prog core, but we didn't get into that. Maybe it's too recent to be prog core, couldn't tell you, but really enjoyed the idea of prog core and getting into it. And I don't know what Todd's going to do with prog core, but he had a t-shirt that he'd made up that he was wearing. I think it's on his Instagram. Go to his Instagram, tell him I sent you, find him on X, find him on social media, and hit him up about prog core. Tell him you're excited about prog core. You heard it from me. Todd Stashwick is bringing prog core to the masses. His gaming systems, he's going to make a gaming system. He was trying to explain that it's going to work with various games. I didn't quite understand where it's going to go, but it sounded dope to me. So, Progcore. And during that time, Todd asked me a question, and I can't stand him. No, I can't stop thinking about it. He asked me this question. He said, listen, how can you, as a creator, as a filmmaker, as somebody that works in the industry, how can you go and be critical about other people's work? How can you, obviously he was in Star Trek, and I loved Star Trek Picard season 3 after being incredibly hard on Star Trek. He asked me, how do you reconcile that? Like, how can you go on, because you know how hard it is to make things, and you know how difficult anything that gets made is. So why be critical of it at all? And, you know, it's really interesting because I've been thinking about that ever since he asked me. And that was the question. How do you do it? How can you work in the industry and be a creator yourself, but at the same time turn around and be so critical of other people's work? Which is a phenomenal question. And I've been thinking about it for days, to be honest. Now, I know a lot of people in the industry, friends of mine, because they've told me, they've said, you know, Rob, you're not doing yourself any favors in the industry. Well, here's the thing. I have never, I don't know what this says, but I have never received really any job that I've ever had in the motion picture industry. I've never been able to make anything. I've never got a job really from somebody else. I've never really applied for a job and got a job. And I've never gotten work directly. It was between me and another guy to direct Dude, Where's My Car? After Free Enterprise. But that was the only time. So my career, such as it is, has always been basically about generating my own material in some way, shape, or form. So I've never gone the traditional route. Like, I am not a TV writer. I've never worked in TV other than directing episodes of Femme Fatales. I directed 5 episodes for Cinemax and edited those episodes as well. Or Skinemax. But, and I was hired by a friend. Usually the people that have hired me are people that I know, that I've either done work with or work for, which is the way it usually happens in the industry. But like, if you're a TV writer and you work in TV, you know, it serves you well to play the game. I don't work in TV. People have always said, well, Rob, you're blackballed because of the Axonar debacle. You'll never work at Paramount. Which is interesting because I did work at Paramount 3 times on Star Trek related projects, and they found me, which was interesting. They found me through work I had already done. I worked on the Star Trek Experience in Las Vegas for 1.5 years. I was a paid Star Trek consultant for Viacom licensing, believe it or not. Yes. They actually came to me and asked if I thought something was good Star Trek or not. Yes, and they paid me to do it. That's true. So I worked for the people that own the franchise and told people whether or not it was good Star Trek. I had that job. And then, of course, I worked for 3 years for CBS on all the special features on the Next Generation Blu-rays and the Enterprise Blu-rays, which was a phenomenal job. We did all 7 seasons of Next Generation, and then we did 5 single discs for the double episodes that they released as individual discs. We did those. And what was crazy was my work was shown in movie theaters, at least 3 separate times. We had 3 different events till they had to put the kibosh on it because of Cliff Bull. Rest in peace, Cliff. But you fucked it up for everybody. Just saying. I know you directed Best of Both Worlds, but you stopped those theatrical events. Bad, Cliffy, bad. But it was fun for a while. So he posed this question to me, and I really had to think long and hard about it. Now, I've told the people that watch this show, I could not talk the mad shit I talk or be critical of things if I wasn't making stuff myself. I really do feel that, such as it is, the movies that I've had a hand in producing, Agent Cody Banks and its sequel, I know I apologize for it, the sequel, but hey, I got paid. I produced The Hills Run Red for Warner Brothers. I produced Tango Shalom, which is out. So White Devils, which you're going to see. So I worked on a lot of low budget movies. But here's the thing. I've never had any breakthrough commercial success. I mean, Cody Banks, a little bit. It was kind of successful. It should have been way more successful if they listened to us as a producer. But I'll tell you something interesting. Here's why I feel I can be critical of other people's work. Because no one's more critical about their own work than me. And I'll tell you a story about Agent Cody Banks. So Agent Cody Banks came about because when I left my first company, Mindfire Entertainment, I started a new company, Endless Entertainment, with two partners. And one of our partners, was interested in making this movie, Agent Cody Banks, that a limo driver had written. And so when the three of us, Carrie David, who's a great documentary filmmaker in her own right, who I adore, who used to be Nicole Kidman's assistant, and then now she's out in the African outback making movies she made an incredible documentary about the female park rangers that are preventing poachers from getting to big game, elephants, rhinoceros. It's an amazing film. But the first thing we ever did together was Agent Cody Banks. And what happened was we ended up going back to that limo driver and optioning his script. And his script was okay. It was a first time writer, and it was only okay. And the idea was good. So what we did was I hired my good friends Zach Stentz and Ashley Miller, who went on to write Thor and X-Men First Class. We hired them to completely rewrite the script for Agent Cody Banks. They knocked it out of the park, as I knew they would, because I'd already read stuff they'd written, and they were incredible screenwriters, just really, really well done. And what they did was they turned Agent Cody Banks into Ferris Bueller meets James Bond. And it had more of a sort of swinging 60s Ferris Bueller meets James Bond vibe. It wasn't set in the 60s, but it was more of a serious adult. The tone of it was more Back to the Future. And it was squarely aimed at the 16 to 25-year-old audience. That's what we had written. They had written an amazing script. It was so amazing that I teamed up. You know who one of my fellow producers was on that movie? Madonna. Not kidding. And Guy Osseri, her company Maverick, became one of the people involved. David Glasser became somebody involved in it. And Jason Alexander from Seinfeld. Yes, that Jason Alexander was also a producer on it. We were able to sell it to MGM. And as soon as you sell a movie to MGM, it's the studios. They can do with it what they want. They decided that they wanted to make a movie for tweens. So rather than make a movie for 16 to 25-year-olds, they decided they wanted to make it for 8 to 12-year-olds. Now, when you sell a movie to a studio, and by the way, we sold it in February, and it was going before the cameras in May. That never happens. And if it does happen, you just ride that wave. And for various reasons, there was nothing, we had to go with it. And they brought in some other writers to rewrite the script to make it more along their idea of making it younger. Now, here's the thing. Having gone through that experience and seen the final movie's fine. It could have been tremendous. It could have been a franchise that went on maybe as long as the Bond franchise. Frankie Muniz could have grown up in the role. The sequel is terrible. And this is a movie that I'm the co-producer of the movie, but all the other producers share credits. And anyone who knows anything about what I say about the entertainment business is you don't get what you deserve, you get what you negotiate. And what you want in the main titles of the movie, the main titles are at the end of the movie. You want what's called a single card credit. That's the coolest thing to get, which means your name and whatever it is you've done, you're the only person that does that. Executive producers on Cody Banks, there's multiple executive producers. Madonna has to share her title with other people. The only producer on Agent Cody Banks that doesn't is me. And when you see my name, again, the main titles are at the end of the movie. Executive producer, not me. Co-producer, Robert Meyer Burnett. I'm the only one on both movies. Unfortunately, I found while Cody Banks got made, some people would say that was a great victory. I didn't. I was like, the studio made a mistake. They bought a project they were really excited about, and somewhere, well, God only knows where, someone at the studio is like, yeah, you know what, you guys, we should well, let's make this for teens. Let's make this for little kids rather than, go after the 16 to 24-year-old market. Well, the movie that we had written, the movie that we wanted to make, the movie that we sold to the studio was made for that market. Now, what happens is, I understand there's spy kids and all that, but when you bring it down to the kiddie level or the younger level, the tween market, there is a wrong-headed thought process that kicks in that you have to take the adult of it out and make it more palatable to young kids. So the spy of it all has to be more Saturday morning cartoon than James Bond, which was a mistake. And, at that point, as a producer, you can try and hold on to your vision as much as you can. But they were wrong. And they were wrong. The movie cost was less than $25 million, and it made a little over $50 million domestically. If they had made the movie that we wanted to make, that we had my friends rewrite, Zach and Ashley, it would have been a $250 million grossing movie. Now, I can say that, but it would have. And when on one hand, people would say, Rob, it was an epic win. And truly it was. We got a movie made. It turned into hell on earth, and I could write a whole story called The Unmaking of Agent Cody Banks, but I won't because I can't live through that hell again. It was really a hellish experience. But we got 2 movies made in a year because they greenlit the sequel. And the sequel, by the way, I'll say this. As the co-producer of the movie, it's fucking awful. And they killed the franchise. They killed the franchise. This is my own movie, okay? And it was god awful because no one knows what the fuck they're doing. And when you turn things over to people, so much of what happens is just a bunch of people making deals. And the movie's like a byproduct of their deals. And I think through going through that experience, Harold Zwart, who directed Cody Banks, did the best job he could. But the studio already mandated they had to turn it into a tween film. That was fucking dumb. It was dumb. It was a stupid idea. The studio was dumb for doing it. I love these new things. It was just dumb. And it's my own project. A project, by the way, that we bought, nurtured, hired other writers to make it better the way we wanted it. They fucking crushed the script. It was amazing. And then we sell it to the studio, epic win. And the studio fucked it up. They fucked it up. Not only did they fuck it up, what could have been, there's 2 movies in that franchise. One is watchable, one is unwatchable garbage. And I'll say it. It's unwatchable garbage. And I'm a co-producer of it. When you watch this stuff happen, and I've gone through it, and it's the only project I've ever worked on that I don't think my involvement made it. It was, if what we did, if that was made, I could say every other project I've ever worked on, I've never worked on anything after that was A-list. I've always worked on really low budget indie first time director stuff. But I can honestly say this, everything I've worked on, I feel this way, other people could probably say something different. But everything that I've ever worked on, I've made better. I just haven't worked on anything A-list. And I'll tell you a story, and I've told this before. The first movie I ever edited in my life was a movie called Arcade from Full Moon. And my friend Dan Schweiger called me up. Here's another crazy job story. So I was working at Warner Brothers in feature production. Then I moved over to Silver Pictures, where I was what's called a story analyst, aka reader. And then I went back to work for people I met in physical production on Free Willy. And I was the producer's assistant here in Los Angeles on Free Willy. And after that was over, Dan Schweiger calls me up and says, "Hey, man, so I got this movie. It's been sitting on a shelf for 2 years, and we have to release it. I've been tasked with producing the new version of it." So it was a movie called Arcade, where kids get sucked into a video game. It was shot in 7 days, and it was edited in 10. And Peter Billingsley, the star of Christmas Story, Don't Shoot Your Eye Out, Kid, he was in the movie, and the only reason he was in it is because he wanted to do post-production. So he was the editor's assistant. But they did it so quickly because it was a full moon movie, but it just didn't turn out well. So it sat on a shelf, but they had to deliver it to Paramount. They had to give it to them. So Dan calls me up and he goes, "Okay, what I want you to do is meet Peter Billingsley, get into an edit bay." The movie was shot in 35 millimeter film, but it was going to be finished on videotape. So what we were supposed to do is the stuff in the computer was shot on video. It was on Digibetacam. So it looked like a soap opera. It looked like Land of the Lost. It was not good. And the effects were not good. So Dan was going to take the original video footage that was shot against a blue screen and recomposite it with new effects. And then our job was to drop it in. So we had to take the movie that was originally edited and just reconstitute it because they were going to retransfer the original negative that was shot, and then we would drop in the effects. We had to rebuild the movie and drop in the effects. And I looked at the film and we started working on it. And I said to Peter, I go, "This movie's terrible." And he goes, "I know, it's not good." And I go, but it could be good because there's all this footage that you didn't use. I mean, the movie represented probably like 65% of what was shot. John Delancey's in this movie. And I said to Peter, I go, "Dude, we can make this movie better. Like, no one's given us a time limit. Like, we're just supposed to, and who knows how long the effects are going to take to do. And so, who knows?" So I call up Dan Schweiger and I go, "Hey, man, what if we took a crack at recutting this movie from beginning to end? We start from scratch." And he goes to me, "Hey, man, what do you know about editing a movie?" I said, "Well, I've been editing since I was a kid. Super 8 movies. I did a lot of music videos when I first moved to LA. And I did get an A in my editing course at USC. I'd certainly never edited a movie before. But I told him, I said, "Come on, we can make it better." And so Dan floated this up the flagpole. And Charlie Band, and at the time Albert, they said, "Okay, you guys, well, we'll bite. Give us 10 minutes. Give us the first 10 minutes of the movie. And if we like your cut, we'll go with you. We'll go with your cut." So Peter and we were cutting on a tape system, a linear tape system. Nightmare. But anyway, that means it's not like you could zip around like you can with digital editing now. It's linear. Every edit we had to make and then advance. If we had to go fix something, you had to go back and lay it back onto tape. It was a nightmare. A nightmare. I still have nightmares about it 35 years later, 30 years later. So what ended up happening was we went in, and I and Peter, we looked at all the footage, and we basically started from scratch. And we recut the entire movie. But first of all, I'm jumping ahead. We recut the first 10 minutes, and we sent it in. And Charlie Ben and even Dan was like, "How'd you guys do this?" And we said, I was like, "It was all there. It's just you guys cut it in 10 days. I mean, you didn't even know, you didn't really get in and work the footage. And a lot of the footage was never even used." So, and we did. And we ended up, I spent 6 months of my life recutting the movie. We learned everything about post-production. We supervised everything, the sound mix. We worked with Alan Howarth, who worked with John Carpenter. And we made what was an unwatchable, literally an unwatchable, unreleasable. That's how bad it was. That's how bad it was. And we turned it into something really mediocre. But I was damn proud of that mediocrity. And it was nominated for Best Direct-to-Video Release of 1993. 30 years ago. It was 30 years ago we did it. But that's the thing. I know that I can go and work on something and I can make it better. And my whole life has been spent usually working on lower budget stuff, making it better, or at least making it good. For instance, I'll tell you, recently in 2015, my friend Mike Hurst directed a movie called Paradox, and I was hired to edit Paradox. And basically, Paradox is a time travel thriller set in an underground lab near downtown LA. And the movie was basically shot in 3 rooms and a corridor and an elevator and kind of a parking lot too. And it was shot in like 18 days for very little money, less than $1 million. And I worked my ass off on that film. We had to do it very quickly, get it delivered. And I look at that film, and the special effects in the movie were literally done for $27 a shot. I'm not kidding. So worked on that, busted our ass. I sometimes just slept in the edit bay for days at a time because I didn't want to drive home and back because we didn't have time. I didn't want to, the commute would waste time. So every other day I think I went home and took a shower. But it turned out the way it was crazy. Like I asked them, I said, "Do you guys, what does it look like when they travel through time in this movie?" And they're like, "Well, we don't know." I'm like, "You don't know? Like there's no sketch. You just built this ramshackle time machine and you don't know what happens?" And no. So we had to figure that out. It was pretty funny. But so when we finished the movie, it's fine. It's fine for a very low budget, ultra low budget movie. I would have loved it when I was younger and discovering it on late night TV or something. But what was really interesting is Pablo Hidalgo, if you know his name and you're affiliated with Star Wars, he was part of a podcast. I think it's Pablo Hidalgo, where there was like from the basement of Netflix, and they would watch the dregs of Netflix sci-fi horror films, and they would review them on this podcast. So Paradox, which is the name of this movie, Paradox, there's a number of movies, but Paradox, this starred Quentin Tarantino's Zoe Bell, and it among other people, and people I know. So it starred her. So if you want to look for it, it's the one with Malik Yoba and Zoe Bell. So check it out, Paradox. But they reviewed it it came from the basement of Netflix, and they're like ripping on it. But by the end, they're like, "You know what? This was pretty good." So I was like, see, if I work on something, I can make it better. It doesn't mean I can make it great, but I can make it better. I think and I've done that a lot throughout my career. And here's the thing. I'm proud of that. I've never worked on anything that people's like, "Oh my God." I've only directed one movie that's out of print, but other people's work that I think I've plussed it. I think I've been able to make it better because I look at everything as a creative challenge, and our job is to make it better. And if you have the time, usually there's no time and no money on something like this, but if you have the time and you can make it better, because I've spent my entire life as an imagination connoisseur consuming this material, reading thousands of books, reading all kinds of books on filmmaking, watching movies from around the world starting from a very young age. I have made motion pictures my life. That's the thing I love to do the most. And I've made them better. If I hadn't done this, if I didn't come from this perspective, and it's not egomaniacal, it's just that when you work on something, if you have good taste and you understand what makes something better or worse, and you're in a position, and by the way, it's never by me, it's never just about me. I'm working usually with somebody, and we have to decide what's better. And the Tango Shalom, the last thing I produced and edited that you can watch streaming on Peacock, Gabe and I, the movie was the movie, but Gabe and I, the director, worked that movie till we cut everything out of it we thought was bad. Is the movie a little too long? Yes, but we needed to make sure all the plot points worked. But I'm very proud of what we did with Tango Shalom, because when I started, there wasn't a whole lot of movie there. I mean, it was there, but was there an ending? Nope. They didn't really finish filming it. So we worked really hard to make it better. And I enjoyed myself. I've had a great time in my career. I've always had fun. But the answer to the question is, the reason that I feel that I can talk mad shit about Star Trek, for instance, it's not just because I watch Star Trek. I've been thinking about Star Trek as its own genre my entire life. If I could get a PhD in anything, it would be about Star Trek. Now, do I have very specific ideas about what Star Trek is? Sure. But I think that my my basic underlying principles about Star Trek if they were adhered to. Because here's the thing. We know what's good Star Trek. You have great Star Trek since 1966 to look at. And what's really interesting is, and we've watched Star Trek evolve over those 50 years. We've seen it. We've seen how it goes. So we know what's good. And as somebody who has read probably every Star Trek reference book, every Star Trek novel, seen every episode, literally worked on Star Trek, creating documentaries. For 3 years, I interviewed people that made Star Trek. I mean, how many people have that kind of broad base of knowledge on how to make something? Now, here's the thing. I've never worked in TV. I mean, other than directing episodes of Femme Fatales. I've never been in a writer's room. I'm not qualified to make real Star Trek. I've never tried. They probably wouldn't hire me anyway. But I could be an advisor, or something like that. But people have always said, another thing about the entertainment business is, there is a hierarchy. I can never say hierarchy. There's a hierarchical structure. I can't even pronounce that word. But, you have to work your way up. You can't just decide, I want to go work in TV. Maybe I'll be a TV writer. No. That's a whole process. You have to go be a writer's assistant. You have to work in writer's rooms. You have to see how it's done. I don't know fuck all about doing that. They kicked me out of a writer's room in the first 25 minutes. No, I kid, but I've never done it before. So no one's ever going to hire me to go work in a writer's room and if I was able, like everything else, if I was able to make my own show, like create a show from scratch and go do it. It's so weird, like when you do that and then the thing happens, or do this, and it's weird. Remember, if you love something, it doesn't mean that they're just going to hire you to work on that thing. It's not how it works. There's a whole level of protocol and all of that. Like, I could work on 20 low-budget movies, and I could make and make them better. But if I walk into a room at a studio, no one's heard of any of those movies. And they don't care if I think I've made them better. All they know is, who are you and why should we hire you? What have you done? Show me something you've done that I would know. And if they don't know it, they're not going to hire you. That's just the way of the business. So ultimately, the question that Todd Stashwick asked me, how do you feel about it? And I'm like, look, I'm honest with my opinion. And I think it comes from a place of having worked in the entertainment business professionally since 1989, since I was 22 years old. And I've seen every part of the business. And I'm still here. I'm still kicking. Finishing White Devils next week. Doing this audio drama based on the man who wrote Road to Perdition, the graphic novel that the movie's based on, and his novel series. By the way, Max Allan Collins, here's his new book, Too Many Bullets. This is set in the late 60s. John Frankenheimer, one of my favorite directors, is actually a character in this novel. I hope we can do 19, because I would love to cast, maybe I'll play John Frankenheimer. I don't know. So the answer is, I do feel that I can be critical of things because I don't think I do it out of malice. And I think it comes from a place of knowledge, and it also comes from a place of love. I want things to be good. And when they're not good, I don't understand it, because they should be good. And so that is the question that I wanted to talk about on this 900th episode of Robservations. And I want to thank Todd Stashwick for asking the question. Some people have too. I mean, there's a lot of people that watch me on this show and are friends of mine in the industry, and they're fucking mortified. They're like, I can't believe that you would say the kind of things. What if you meet those people? And I'm like, I'll tell them to their faces. I'm not interested in blowing smoke up anyone's ass. And I have to say, shout out to The Critical Drinker, because The Critical Drinker was on Russell Brand a couple weeks ago. And The Critical Drinker, he said on Russell Brand's show, he said, a very smart man, Robert Meyer Burnett, said that the currency of the 21st century for anybody is going to be authenticity. And I honestly believe that. And I think here's the one thing that people can take to the bank. You always get my authentic self. That's all I got. You know, when you watch me, you are getting pure, uncut, unfiltered me on this show. People have asked me, well, Rob, you seem a little bit more tempered on the John Campea show and you're different than you are on your own show. Well, that's because I'm a guest. When I go on someone else's show, I'm not there I'm there to be me, of course, and offer my opinion, and I do. But I also can't, it's someone else's show. I can't pop off and, I can't, like on Midnight Musings when we all start talking about fucking, or if Lael talks about cheeks, I can't just start talking about how much I love going down on the ladies on John Campea's show. You can't do that. That would not be proper. Irene Jobson might like it, but that would not be, you just don't do that. So when you're on someone else's show, I'm there to, sometimes, when I was drinking on YouTube, I don't drink anymore. I still drink, but I don't drink online. It made me sloppy. But maybe we'll do some midnight medals and go back to late night drinking because it was fun. But you just don't do that. By the way, shout out to Critical Drinker for even bringing me up on Russell Brand's show. I was very touched and humbled by that, sir. I've done a lot of streams with Critical Drinker that I'm really proud of. Star Trek: The Motion Picture, Alien, talked about Lord of the Rings, that's another great thing. Over the 900 episodes I've done of this show and all the other shows I've done, I've made some really good friends. Some controversial people, surely, but people like Gary Beekler, Nerdrotic. I love Gary Beekler. I've met him. He is, a friend of mine said, my friend Eric Wallace, who's a great TV producer and a great talent, once said that there are two kinds of people in life. There are hosts and there are guests. Eric Wallace is a host, a consummate host. Gary Nerdrotic, he's a host. Like if and what I mean by a host is somebody that opens their door, they throw the party, you come to their party, they take care of you. And some people are just perpetual guests. They show up, they don't bring anything to the party not even a bottle of wine, not even a sixer. And if you go to those kind of parties, not even a bump, at least bring me a little bindle, bring me something. Bring me an ounce of, bring some of the wacky weed. Come on. But it's been great meeting people like The Drinker and Gary and Andre and Tom over at Midnight's Edge. I know those controversial figures, but, and Chris Gore, of course, I'd already known, but it's been great. Paulie from Latino Slant, another great guy that I've met online, met a lot of people. Of course, as we've done, I really love the series we did on The Prisoner and Squid Game and talking about toys. I've met a lot of great people. Not everyone's cup of tea, I understand. But, remember, we're putting on shows. And I think that they are, if nothing else, their authentic selves. And whether you like that or not, I appreciate that they're that way. And I also really like that I've met all kinds of different people. The people that have watched this channel, and anybody that's watching this show right now, I'm convinced you guys are the best audience on YouTube. I get more thoughtful letters, more incredible feedback, I never know what I'm going to get from you people, but I'll tell you what it is. It's all, let's call it upper level, next level. And to that end, I know that some people have been sending in super chats and things. So I'm going to hit those first, and then I got some letters to read. So let's see. Mike Alito sends in a super chat and says, "Happy 900, Bobby. Congratulations." Dr. Fauci's prison butt always cracks me up. Says, "But Rob, will you put a chick in it and make it gay?" Yeah, look, I'm there for it. As long as there's sex happening, straight, gay, bi. I'm still waiting for the non-binary sex scene. Is there one? Because I want to watch it. I can't. That's what I keep saying. I'm waiting. I'll call you by whatever pronouns you want me to call you by. I have no problem with that. But where's the fucking? Where's the fucking? I want to see the non-binary sex scenes. We haven't got one yet. If there is one, show me. I want to know. How does that work? What if you decide, if you're non-binary, how do you, where are you going? Do you just sit in a room and you can't wonder, are you thinking to yourself, I don't know which way I'm going to go tonight. I don't even know which way there is to go. I don't know. I need to see it. Six Scale Mafia, my friend, another great Anthony. Six Scale Mafia, another great guy I have met over the internet that I've streamed with. And I'll tell you something, Anthony, he gets credit on Star Trek action figure boxes, the packaging. How cool is that? He gets credit because he does videos and takes pictures for the company that's making them, for Exo 6. I mean, come on. The dude gets credit on high-end 6-scale action figure boxes. He's the first person I've known in the world that has that credit. I want one of those credits. I don't know how to get a credit like that, but he gets them. So go check out his channel, 6-Scale Mafia. Also, go check out Lael Rockwell's channel, which is, of course, 1/6-Scale Man. Go check out Positive Fandom's channel, Subscribe. Go. Go to Latino Slant's channel. By the way, Latino Polly is running a really great Kickstarter for his novella. Go support him. Captain Robert April has been a member of the channel. Go support Robert April, Captain Robert April. By the way, come on, trivia question. When did Robert April first appear in the Star Trek franchise? The 22nd episode of Star Trek the Animated Series, The Counterclock Incident. There you go. Nicomedes Santiago says, short story contest. I'd love to know more, R&B. Is there a specs page? Not yet. Are pulp hacks welcome to take a shot? Of course. Of course, my first challenge is to write a sensible super chat in under 10,000 words. Well, you can try that. So here's the thing. It's going to be 10,000 word stories, but you can write. The book is called The Imagination Connoisseurs. So the premise is either a story about imagination connoisseurs, a story that appeals to imagination connoisseurs, a story that defines what is an imagination connoisseur. There's a wide range of things. Go crazy, but you know what? We're going to know if you use AI. I'm just saying, because I listened to this story about a sci-fi journal who had to deal with a lot of, they published short stories, now suddenly had to deal with a deluge of AI short stories, and they figured out a way to tell whether it was AI. And then, of course, we have Tom Jr. Jackson, another vital member of the Burnettwork. Tom Jr. Jackson is our great moderator. And now Tom, one of the nicest guys I think I've ever met in my life, Tom coined the phrase, it was a mistake, but it was great, called "We Are All Goof People." And it was one of these, another thing that I just love is when people send me things and they strike me as funny or delightful, and suddenly I'm like, no, that's now the phrase of this channel, especially the late night shows. We are all goof people. I think Tom meant to say we're all good people, but we're all goof people too. And if you know you're a goof person, it's good to be a goof person. So Tom Jr. Jackson not only is a great moderator, a good friend, but he's a goof person, as are we all. Also people, like Kaz Graphics, the official cheesemonger of this channel. There's been so many people on this channel. The lovely Emma Bannon in the UK. There's been, so many people. Claude and his lovely wife and their son Spencer. There's all kinds of people on this channel that I've come to know and love over the course. And I can't mention, if I don't mention, you don't feel bad. I being live, I can't mention everybody. But there's so many great people that are on this channel that I've met, which is great. Red French Moon sends in a super chat and says, "Hello, Robin. Happy 900th to you and everyone. Not working tomorrow, so I can stay late for the 900th. Mike Alito says that Paradox is currently streaming on Tubi. Well, if you've ever wanted to see a less than $1 million time travel extravaganza set in 3 rooms, a hallway, and a elevator, check it out. By the way, I'll tell you something. If you do watch Paradox, I'm the editor, right? And so the climax of the movie takes place in a fiery, collapsing elevator. Except there was no fiery, collapsing elevator. And they shot the live-action plate against a brick wall with these two metal pieces, these metal cross beams that are supposed to be what? I don't know, literally. That's it. No green screen, nothing. Just keep that in mind when you're watching the end of that movie, and know that every one of our effect shots was $27. But there you go. So check out Paradox. And I'll tell you, we made it as good as we could. Scott Bartholomew says, happy 900th, Rob. Loki Season 2, Episode 6 finale, and For All Mankind Season 4, Episode 1 were both badass. Indeed, they were. I like the end of Loki. Loki is the god of stories and the keeper of the multiverse. I like that. Kind of dovetailed with the comics. I mean, maybe they took a little too long to get there, but I enjoyed it. I liked it. I thought it was great. 200 Watt Studio says, my dual 4K from Amazon UK just shipped. Woohoo! Yeah, I'm a little behind on my physical media purchasing just because of the last couple weeks I've been running around. Crisis Medicine, then to Chicago. Dual coming out in 4K. How cool is that? Pretty cool. Kenneth Colton, who's been here for a while, says, congrats on 900 episodes, Sir Robert. Sending my best to all the Post-Geek Singularity and look forward to the future. Well, thanks, Kenneth Colton. And Retro Nerd Girl, another person, go to her channel. Subscribe to Retro Nerd Girl. She does great stuff. Why aren't you subscribed to her? Go subscribe to her now. Do it. Do it now. Retro Nerd Girl. Retro Nerd Girl. She's cute, too. Go watch her content. She's delightful. And go subscribe. Charlie, and I mean that respectfully, and I don't want to be the creepy old father figure. So, Charles Andre Becerra, it's Becerra, says, we're the best because you're the best, Rob. Well, thank you. Maybe we shouldn't talk about the war in Israel and Gaza. I've lost hundreds of subscribers, so I won't. Unless you want to, later on, pay to play. You can talk to me about anything you want. Kelvin Wellborn, another person I wouldn't have known. Kelvin lives, he's a man down under. He's got me some great sets from Via Vision, aka Imprint. He's a great physical media collector, and he knows what I want before I even know I want it myself. All the way. Glenn Mark, somebody down, another man down under, NZ. He's putting timestamps on the episodes. He's also writing his own. He's writing his own stories. He's a true connoisseur, a true imagination connoisseur, writing his own kids' books. Check it out. It's good stuff. So Glenn Mark, good to see you. Sends in a super chat. Scott Bartholomew, a true Star Trek fan, by the way. Scott says, happy Veterans Day to all who served. A good point. Another thing that I work on, obviously, is crisis medicine, tactical casualty care. Shout out to Dr. Mike Schertz, 18 Delta. And I've been working with him for 6 years. We just did I wish we didn't need tactical casualty care, but if you go to crisis medicine, tactical casualty care to the website, that is a series. One of the things I'm most proud of working on. I direct his classes. We do a 4-camera shoot in a studio. And he teaches, he's an ER doctor and a former Green Beret Special Forces medic. And we work with a lot of his special operator friends to do scenarios and things. So we work with local law enforcement, local SWAT up in the Portland area. Most of the people that we work with that Mike knows are ex-military. And it's great. And I'm really, really proud of it. So shout out to all the veterans. Shout out to all the people I work with at Crisis Medicine who are in fact veterans, including Mike himself, which is very exciting. So, Glenn Mark says he's glad to make it tonight. Well, I thank you for being here, Glenn. R.J. McCready. Oh my God! You know what? The pre-order for Mondo's figure is over, and I forgot to order it. I gotta call up and get that. Said, can you give me your thoughts on this episode on the Twilight Zone? It's called The Hunt. A man and his dog. It's about not knowing you're dead, but even the devil can't foul a dog. It's a great episode. That is a great episode. You know what? I want to find out. I don't remember off the top of my head who wrote it, but let's find out. The Hunt is episode 84 of The Twilight Zone. By the way, The Twilight Zone originally ran from 1959 to 1964. And I want to find out who wrote it. Earl Hamner Jr., and it was season 3. Earl Hamner Jr. wrote a lot of Twilight Zone episodes. And it was season 3, episode 19. I love The Hunt. And like you said, it's funny. You go back and you watch. When I was a kid, I loved episodes like that. But you go back and watch them now, and they're a little, because they've used the Twilight Zone has been so ripped off so many times. Yeah, but it's a great. I love The Hunt. The Hunt is a great episode, and it shows you that dogs will keep you safe. Kelvin goes on to say, congrats on the 900th episode. Sent another Blu-ray disc. Kelvin got me. Okay, so one of my favorite movies from the early 60s. It's a great horror film. It's based on a book called Conjure Wife. But it's called Burn Witch Burn, a.k.a. the original title, Night of the Eagle. If you haven't seen Burn Witch Burn, it's great. Peter Wingard stars in it. Clytus from Flash Gordon. Clytus, I'm bored. What plaything can you offer me today? An obscure body in the SK system, Your Majesty. The inhabitants refer to it as the planet Earth. That's Peter Wingard. And Peter Wingard is a college professor, and he's a total pragmatist. He doesn't believe in hocus pocus, mumbo jumbo, Marcus. He doesn't believe in that, not knowing that his wife is a witch, and that all of these wives at this college where this professor teaches at are witches that don't have their best interests in mind. And Peter Wingard has no idea that his wife is protecting him. It's a fucking great movie. If you've never seen Burn Witch Burn, a.k.a. the original title, Night of the Eagle, I highly recommend it. Highly recommend it. Zequinox says, I haven't watched the stream tonight. Avatar Last Airbender reaction. Did the live action show drop? If it did, I have not seen it. I was so focused on everything else I've been doing. If I have not seen, I like the original anime or animated series, which is quite good. But I haven't seen the live action. I'm dying to see the live action. I have not seen it. I have to check it out. Jason Webster says, hi, Bob, or hi, Rob. Bought my tickets to Godzilla -1. I don't know if you saw so Godzilla -1 had its world premiere was in Tokyo, but it had its LA premiere. Though I think it was the first place it played outside of Japan last night, and people, Koi Jandrew hosted the Q&A afterwards. Everyone loved it. Everyone said it's the best Godzilla movie. It looks that way. I'm a lifelong Godzilla fan. I can't wait. I got to go see it. Cannot wait. Bo says, congrats on 900. You're a cultural scholar, a sci-fi gentleman, and an inspiration for geeks and creators across the known universe. Bo Sanders. Well, thank you, Bo. That's very nice of you to say. I appreciate that. So thank you. I'm going to read the first letter. I've got letters, and this one's an interesting letter. So, by the way, anybody who wants to send me letters, it's free. And you can send them down to postgeeksingularity.com. That's our website. This one comes from Vic Hibbler. Vic Hibbler writes this. I wasn't sure where to send this. I originally sent it to Mike. Sorry for the intrusion if this is the wrong place or if you already saw it. I have not. I just wanted you to see the top. Feel free to skip the rant. I was watching an old episode, and you were talking about being able to physically validate transgenderism. It was around 28 minutes in. It was just an offhand comment you made, really. But I have an interest in this topic. I was listening to a podcast about a year ago in which a neurologist was speaking about some relatively recent research on the structures of the transgender brain. The basic structure of the brain between men and women is largely the same. However, there are several discrete structures that do associate the brain to its biological sex. In the last decade, several dozen trans people were autopsied, and the structure of their brains were studied. the structures typically aligned to the sex with which they identified. Example, a biological male who identifies as female would have brain structures correlating to a biological female. I was interested in the physical research being done on this topic. Just do a Google search for research into the structure of transgender brains. With the uptick in interest in gender studies in recent years, there is much research to be found out there. On a side note, particularly relevant to this episode and my own offhand comment, I want to mention an aspect of your personality I always appreciated. When you are reading other people's letters, you will occasionally misread their intention. You'll catch yourself and reread the passage with the proper inflection. Often when people do this, they get annoyed with the author, ostensibly for confusing them with poor writing. But you always react with excitement for discovering the true intention, perhaps, instead of reinforcing your own bias. And that is why I enjoy your content. That's a very nice thing to say. I mean, look, I look at it this way. If someone takes the time to write in a letter, as long as it's, not fuck you, I'm obligated, I think, to share it. If somebody took time and put fingers to keypad and typed out a long letter, they deserve to be heard. I mean that. So, and if I misread something, I'd rather figure out what they are going to say. I mean, here's the thing. This is going to seem a little weird, but I have always loved animals. It doesn't matter what animals they are. I love animals. I've even gotten over my hatred of spiders lately. But I love animals, and animals know that I love them. I don't know why, but I've always been able to interact with whatever animals are around. I think because animals know that I love them. But in my mind, I think of animals as aliens. This is what this says about me, I don't know, but they're aliens. They're the closest that I'm ever going to come. I mean, you can have a more meaningful reaction with terrestrial animals than you probably ever could with an infinitely more intelligent alien from a different galaxy, because it would be so difficult to try and communicate with a much greater mind than ours. So in my mind, when I'm interacting with animals, it's the closest that I'm going to come to interacting with an alien. So in my mind, all animals are aliens. Like literally they're aliens. And I find them all delightful. Like, isn't it neat that you can, and they communicate. Like, I'd never owned a dog. I came from a crazy cat house with my mom, and now I have 3 dogs. And we have 7 puppies that are available for purchase. We vet you if you want. They're the cutest. I mean, we had the first batch that was amazing. This batch, we have 7. We have 4 boys and 3 girls. It's Thanksgiving puppies. They turned 8 weeks old yesterday. They have their shots. They're ready to go home. They're the cutest puppies in the world, and I'll make a video about them. We haven't done much to promote that we have these puppies available, but we do. If you're a discerning puppy person, they are F1B Irish Doodles, which means they're 25% Irish setter, and they are 75% purebred poodle. They'll probably be around 50 pounds, and they are amazing. Anyway, so so I get delighted. But let me first of all, this letter seems to be in 2 parts. I've always thought when it comes to, like, in my life, I started having lesbian and gay friends when I was about 13. And this is my opinion, but it was apparent to me that the friends that I've had and still have, and I've had, people always used to call me, you're either gay friendly. I said I prefer to be gay adjacent. But it was apparent to me that the people that I knew that were LGBT were born that way. It wasn't a choice. It was, as a matter of fact, one of my oldest friends in the world, we knew he was gay before he really did. He had a girlfriend. He hadn't come out yet. I'm like, dude, I didn't tell him, but we all knew he was gay. He eventually came out and figured it all out, but we knew. And I've always believed, and I think that there's nothing wrong with that, naturally occurring. Why not? It's just part of the species. It's part of how things happen. It's the natural part of being born. And But I've also felt that way about the people that I've met that are truly trans. It is apparent to me that that is naturally occurring. Now, I have not read this research, but it makes perfect sense to me because the people that I've met, that I've interacted with, that I've gotten to know that are trans, they're trans. I absolutely believe 100% that, and I've said on this show many times, eventually they will have an actual way to see that people that it's not just, I don't believe it's not just dysphoria. I think there's actually people whose brains are female or male brains in the wrong bodies. And the same reason. I mean, it's not, obviously, it's a small percentage of the population, but I believe that to be true. Now, all the other stuff that goes on, I think there's a lot of people that have different forms of sexuality and different forms of identity. They might decide that they are trans or something, and I think people consider themselves trans who might not actually have a female brain in a male body. But it doesn't surprise me that the research that you're talking about exists. I don't know. I've never encountered it myself, but it's just a theory that I've had, just based on no other reason. I'm pulling it out of my ass. But the people that I've met that I thought in my interactions with them, I'm like, oh yeah, this person is trans. Some of those people have transitioned and some have not. But I honestly believe that trans people are truly trans people. I think there's some people that again, I don't know the psychology behind it, but there's like everything, there's a spectrum. But I do think that there are actual people, trans people, that their brains are in the wrong body. They have a female brain and it's in a male body. I believe that's true. And it doesn't surprise me. So I don't know, Vic. I don't know anything about the research you talked about, but as Vic says, you can Google research into the structure of transgender brains and find out the research. I'm excited to do that. Now he changes course in his letter. I feel the problem with modern media, this is a shift, particularly Trek, is a personal bias over social responsibility. This applies to modern Trek as well as folks like Doomcock. I know it's unpopular, especially these days, to refer to Roddenberry as the arbiter of Trek lore. However, if there is one commandment that is central to Star Trek, it's cohesion on the bridge. These people, a reflection of explorers throughout our history, amen, are the best that humanity has to... He didn't say amen, I put that in there. Are the best that humanity has to offer. When you're on an isolated island, submarine, polar explorer, lunar explorer, or even an interstellar explorer, social cohesion and respect for the chain of command are critical. Not to mention, how you purport yourself is a reflection on all of us as a species. This is a horrible example, but I always love the quote from Jane on Firefly. Do you know what the chain of command is? It's the chain that I beat you with until you realize who's in command. Not the ideal leadership position, but in a crisis, I have more faith in him maintaining order than what I see on modern Star Trek. In fact, that's what I always respected about Mal's character in the series. Beautiful compromise for a leader, compassionate but pragmatic. Captain Jack from O'Brien's Master and Commander series is another excellent example of being a compassionate leader, even in fierce times. I totally agree. I think the Master and Commander series is very Star Trek. But hell, drop Ronnie Cox, Captain Jellicoe, onto the boss chair on Discovery, and in 10 seconds he'll post a general announcement that he's confining all officers to quarters, promoting senior NCOs to command, and setting course for the nearest starbase, and setting a fourth shift. That is all. Get it done. Actually, at second 6. Visualize his Total Recall character saying, "What the fuck is going on here? Cohagen." Actually, that would probably go over well with modern vulgar Trek. I couldn't get past the 3rd episode of Discovery. I just couldn't reconcile what I saw. The second in command commits mutiny in a particularly disgusting way, I might add. Nothing about it was rational or in line with military doctrine. Michael should have been relieved of command and court-martialed. Would have been an interesting redemption arc. You could have filled 2 seasons or more with nothing but that, and I would have been more interested. Imagine the drama of climbing to the height of second in command on a Federation ship, being stripped of command and probably incarcerated. Told you would never serve on a Federation command again. Sounds like an interesting story. What would it take to claw your way back? Well, apparently not much. J.J. Abrams has a mystery box for that. Oh, I can totally fix that. Watch, we just won't bring it up anymore. Not fair, I know, since I didn't watch past the 3rd episode, but I'm guessing it went something like that. It did go something like that. My point is that I watch Trek to aspire to be better, not to drag them down to my level. I get zero aspiration in modern Star Trek. They've just lost the thread. I couldn't even get to Picard. I couldn't even get into Picard season 3. I've probably just been hurt too much. No going back. Sorry to ramble on, but considering all the rants of Rob's I've listened to, I figured I can indulge. You can indulge. All of you can indulge me just once. Keep up the great work. That is all, Vic. Well, Vic, first of all, I appreciate the kind words. To me, yeah, I mean, I genuinely do love what people say, on the show. And the trans issue, I've said that many times. I really do believe in the reality of it all, because it makes sense. I mean, the human animal is so complex, and because of our chromosomes, and we are a binary. I understand there's intersex people, but for the most part, we are either male or female. But there's so many things that can cross, XXY, XY. I mean, it makes sense to me. It's pragmatic from what I know of the world. There are certain things that happen that are out of the ordinary, certainly, but naturally occurring. And I've always believed that. Whether that gets me in trouble, I don't know. But I think one day you'll be able to, if they've done autopsies, I mean, that's kind of gruesome, doing autopsies on transgendered brains, but if they have actually found physical evidence that shows that a trans man actually has the brain of a male and a trans woman has the brain of a female, that makes total sense. And let's say, I mean, can you imagine what that would do to people who are trans to know that you would actually be able to see? Like, they can be like, yep, you're trans. You have the brain of a woman and you're a dude. So really, your brain chemistry, who you are, is indeed female. Can you imagine if that was quantifiable in medical terms, in real science? You know how helpful that would be? And to me, I think it would be great if they can prove that. I don't know much about it, but hey. So let's see, I got Bo. Scott Bartholomew says, I took Dave Cullen's recommendation and watched a great 2004 sci-fi flick last night called Primer. Primer is a $30,000 time travel movie that is great. It was one of the only movies in my lifetime where I watched that when I was working on Superman Returns in Australia. I had the disc. It was like one afternoon. I watched it, and immediately I watched it again with the commentary. If you guys haven't seen Primer, it's not for everybody. It's a little dense, but it's one of the best time travel movies ever made. But I warn you, you got to put your thinking cap on. Primer's great. I'm glad you liked it, Scott. Really, really good. Jason Webster says, I strongly believe Naoki Sato's score for Godzilla -1 is the best film score of 2023. It's stunning. Oh, I believe it. I can't wait. A lot of Godzilla scores have been great, actually. Tornawatt Studio says, Janet Landgard, the co-star of The Swimmer, has passed away at 75. That's sad. I like The Swimmer. I'm sorry that she passed. That's a Burt Lancaster movie. If you guys have not seen The Swimmer, you owe it to yourselves to check out The Swimmer. Let's see. Got some tips. I wanted to fire a read. Milwaukee Jimmy sent this in a while ago. Actually, before this started. Milwaukee Jimmy sends in a $20 tip and says, I really enjoy your Holly Nerdwood view of entertainment in the world. Well, thank you, Milwaukee Jimmy. I want to know why they call you Milwaukee Jimmy now. Murray Reich is here. Murray Reich sends in a tip and says, so Marvel has finally jumped the not shark, Flurkin. Yes, besides for the mid-credit scene. And Miss Marvel highlights the movie had some what the fuck moments. The multiverse isn't broken. It's the MCU. Have you seen it? Your thoughts. Have I seen it? And my thoughts. Well, first of all, let me before I answer that question. Yes, I've seen it. Let me answer the thing about Vic and talking about Star Trek. I think he made a really salient point when he said that the crew of the Enterprise, the bridge crew, or the bridge crew of the Deep Space Nine, or any Star Trek ship, is representative of all explorers throughout history. I think that is one of the best things I've ever heard. And he does bring up Master and Commander. You know, I've talked about The West Wing being a great Star Trek show because it's about people collaborating to try and do good, you know, within their realm. They're basically on the bridge of the Enterprise. It just happens to be the White House. Master and Commander is very much the relationship that Captain Aubrey has with Paul Bettany, his doctor, is incredible. It's very Star Trekian in its conceit. I think the different thing now is the thing that I really hate about modern Star Trek, and you've heard me say it a million times, is that it has dispensed with the idea that a starship is a place of discipline. It's basically a quasi-military structure. Not anymore. You know, Star Trek Strange New Worlds has almost none of that. There's hardly a command structure at all. I mean, yeah, Pike's on the bridge, but you know what? Or if you want to be captain now, you can be captain right now. And it's all about people doing what they want or what they feel. And it's really bizarre because I think it reflects the time in which we live in, where I think I wander around the world and I'm like, what are you going to do? Like I meet people all the time. I'm like, seriously, what are you going to do? Like, what are you going to do tomorrow or next week or what are you going to do to achieve your goals? And I feel that people just think these days, they just think stuff's going to happen to them. And I'm always wondering, like, how do you think that's going to happen? I don't know. And I feel that on Star Trek, I don't have any sense. Like, I wouldn't go anywhere on the Strange New Worlds Enterprise. There's no fucking way. You couldn't. I wouldn't trust any of those people to get through any crisis. They stumble through the crises, not through their ingenuity or not. They just stumble through it all, and it scares the fuck out of me. So, yeah, not a great thing. Kaz Graphics is here. Hello, everyone, and much love to my fellow vets. Well, Kaz Graphics is, of course, the official cheesemonger of this channel. Why does a YouTube channel have an official cheesemonger? Well, because Kaz Graphics knows cheese. Oh, my glass is up in the. It's I betrayed you, Kaz. I've been drinking out of these mason jars because there's more water in them. They're bigger. So, yeah, but Star Trek, I don't buy it, as you all know. Roger Cryer Smurfette sends in a tip and says, keep in mind that if everyone were gay, that would be a really, really, really bad thing, as that would mean our species would die. We should pick out a month each year to celebrate Straight Pride Month, the only group who keeps our species alive. Yeah, but that's like every day. I mean, you know, here's the thing. We don't need the straight pride thing. Here's the thing. Our LGBTQ brethren, can you say brethren, or is that just somebody's going to get mad because that means brother? I mean, I get so confused. I mean, I don't understand why people don't get that. Okay, there's all this way. There's been a way to talk to people for 1,000 years. We're used to one thing. It's going to take us a little while to figure out what's going on. And you know what? I mean, I don't think everybody can expect the world to understand who they are inside. Like, I don't if you're presenting a certain way, I've got to go by how you're presenting. I don't know how you feel inside until you tell me. So if I ask if I misgender somebody or dead name somebody or do something wrong, please understand it's not coming from a place of malice. It's coming from a place of, I just don't know. I wasn't paying enough attention to it. But if I'm corrected in a nice way, I'm happy to be there. But in terms of, the thing is, it's like the LGBTQ community, especially in America, everyone had to hide for so long. People were pariahs. It wasn't something people wanted. I mean, and for what, again, the reason why I've always had like been friendly, even when I was 13 years old. At first I knew gay men for a lot longer than I met any gay women. I didn't know any gay women until I was in college. So in high school and junior high school, I knew gay men, and I knew them because of the arts, because of the Seattle film scene. But two, I kind of appreciated the whole lifestyle because they were having some fun, man. There was a party time all the time. It was, I like that part of it too. And, I loved unfettered male sexuality. Watching unfettered male sexuality find other unfettered male sexuality was inherently a good, erotic, interesting thing. And so more power to you. But remember, people had to hide. And that's why when things like Stonewall happened, you had more acceptance. And then, of course, right as that was happening, then you had the AIDS epidemic. And the AIDS epidemic was primarily at first, when it first hit, was predominantly a gay male disease. And that further demonized that population, especially after rights and things, the gains that were being made were almost swept away. That's why it's so interesting to me. If you go back and you look at a movie like Philadelphia, now people would say, oh, you can't have Tom Hanks play that character. He's a straight actor playing a gay character. You can't do that. People would, I swear to God. But at the time when Philadelphia came out, because Tom Hanks played a sympathetic gay man dying of Kaposi sarcoma, it was revolutionary. And you had a gay man directing it as well. And what a great performance, what a sympathetic, what a human movie that is. And by the end of that film, everybody, because it was Tom Hanks, everyone was sympathetic to him. Everyone, because everybody was like the company he worked for. And you realize it humanized, no one cared about Tom Hanks' sexuality at the end of that movie. They saw a person they liked, a human being they liked, who was dying of this horribly ravaging disease. And I knew people that did die of AIDS, and let me tell you, it was not pretty. And it happened fast, especially in the mid-'80s. The first person I knew who died of AIDS was a man that worked for Paramount named Joe Vigil. And I used to see him at screenings. He was the Paramount rep, I think, for the Seattle area. And when he got sick and then he was gone, it was fast and scary. So, yeah. Straight people get celebrated all the time. We don't need a straight Pride Day just because we procreate. Because you know what? Let's face it. We might procreate, but where's the fucking? Let's get back to the fucking. We want good fucking. No one fucks anymore. There's no eroticism anymore. We talk about this. Hey, it's not Midnight Musings, but it is Robservations. Let's get back to the erotic thriller. I mean, come on. The joy of hooking up with another human being that wants to be there. That you both want to tear each other's clothes off, and you're not going to leave any part of your bodies untouched with your tongue or fingers or whatever. What happened to that erotic power? What's going on? People are happier when they're fucking. Just saying. We miss that. We're missing that from our culture. And I don't care whether it's straight, gay, bi, non-binary. I don't care. As long as people are fucking. And they're fucking who they want to fuck the way they want to fuck. And they're getting fucked the way they want to fuck too. That's always a good thing. And you know what? And you don't have to put everything on camera and put it up on OnlyFans and monetize it. Hey, but if you want to do that. Okay, Anonymous says, what's your take on the Marvels? Okay. I am perplexed. First of all, let me just say, as a lifelong comic book fanatic, and I read Marvel comics, I've read lots of good comics, bad comics, indifferent comics. I loved the MCU. I loved it. I would say on Collider Heroes back in 2015, 2016, 2017. I was always calling Kevin Feige the Lord and Savior of the comic book film. I loved what they did. I love what they did. I have been perplexed since Spider-Man Far From Home. I really don't understand. Like, okay, I know it didn't come off, it wasn't, they didn't plan it all. They could kind of move, and they could feint and duck and take their punches and change things and make them work. But over the course of 23 movies, the Infinity Saga is an incredibly satisfying romp. And Endgame, Infinity War and Endgame are infinitely watchable. And as a longtime comic book fan, I love those movies. I love even the ones that aren't as great. You go back and you watch Iron Man 2 again. It's wildly entertaining. I love Iron Man 2. Thor: The Dark World, you can tell that I know the director wasn't that into it, or maybe over his head because he was a Game of Thrones director. But still, there's still a lot to like. Might not be perfect, but when the highs of it was great. I have been very perplexed by everything after that. Because you had 23 movies. It's the most successful run of 23 movies ever in the history of the business. Kevin Feige, genius. Everybody who worked at Marvel, genius. And they had the template. I mean, if you think about what they were supposed to do, it wasn't hard. Like, I will not understand. I mean, I get why they made a Black Widow movie, but Black Widow was dead. And they let off Phase 4 with a Black Widow movie, which I'm like, okay, why would you do that? I mean, what they needed to do, if you really think about how, so in Iron Man 1, you have one man. You start with one man, and you see he has a crisis of conscience, and he undergoes a change, all right? And then you're introduced to other men. You're introduced to Thor, also has a change. Steve Rogers also goes through a change. So these men are transformed, or two men and a god, are transformed by what they were into something new, which shows the Avengers being forged. And then you were introduced to Nick Fury and Hawkeye and Black Widow, who are already working together. So, but so here's the thing. But that template, you have the template. So just do it again. So what you needed your new Tony Stark. You needed somebody, and I guess you kind of have it in Shang-Chi, but what I don't understand is none of it all, it's all, to me, gobbledygook. Thor: Love and Thunder, what the fuck was that movie even about? I mean, I understand what it was about, but, and it was skating off of, it was Taika Waititi. I'm like, what was the story you wanted to tell? I mean, it certainly wasn't Gore the God Butcher the way that he was presented in the comics. And Quantumania. Here you had two delightful Ant-Man and Ant-Man and the Wasp. Delightful movies. Quantumania was, what was that? Why did you decide to make that kind of a movie? Finish the one man puts his family together trilogy. And yet you're going to what? None of it works. None of it works. I have to say, I have never felt my interest wane in anything as much as it waned by the end of the Marvels. Because at the end of that film, I just don't care. What is there to care about? So now you're setting up what? I mean, they don't even, so now they've done some, and this really bothers me. I mean, as somebody who produced special features for X-Men and X2, I love the X-Men. The way I love Star Trek, I love the X-Men as far as a group. X-Men and Teen Titans were my jam in the early 80s. I still love the X-Men. I was putting all my X-Men omnibuses together. I don't know what the fuck's going on with them. Why do they keep falling back? So now we had the Quicksilver from the Fox universe in WandaVision. It was Quicksilver, but then it turns out not to be. What was that even about? How am I supposed to take that? Why did you get the same actor to play Quicksilver that isn't Wanda's brother? It's some kind of shenanigans, and now he's Ralph Boner, whatever the fuck that is. I'm like, that makes no sense at all. I still, to this day, do not understand what they're doing. They gave you, so there's your first incursion, whatever it was, I don't know. And then, Spider-Man No Way Home sets up this whole multiverse thing. I mean, and then Loki. Now Loki is the keeper of the multiverse, and he's the god of stories like in the comics. None of this makes any sense. Multiverse of Madness. You have which is a sequel to the WandaVision TV show, which I kind of like, but ultimately it's totally inconsequential. By the end of that movie, nobody knows Doctor Strange fought Wanda except Wong and the rest of the people at Comertage. I mean, nobody knows. What is it even about? This Phase 4 and Phase 5 is the definition of gobbledygook. I don't care. There's nothing going on. I love these movies so much, and while I did enjoy Loki, it should have been 3 episodes, but I liked the second season of Loki. It was fun. It ended in an interesting place for Loki, but so what? It seems like Multiverse of Madness, what's going on, alternate universes in Captain Marvel, or pardon me, the Marvels. Why would you take a character like Captain Marvel, okay? Captain Marvel, who's ridiculously overpowered, but Carol Danvers, why not give her first movie made $1 billion. Look, my favorite Captain Marvel was Monica Rambeau with the fro and the white and the black outfit from the 80s, who was an Avenger. I love that character. If it's not Marvel, give me Monica Rambeau. Look, my favorite comic, but my favorite single issue of a superhero comic is, it's Miracle Man 15, but it's Avengers Annual 10. Rogue is introduced, and Rogue steals Carol Danvers' powers. And Michael Golden drew it. It's great. Great comic. Chris Claremont wrote it. It's great. Why not you had $1 billion movie, why not make Carol Danvers an interesting character? Like if you wanted to do something with her, make her the new Tony Stark. She's not as smart as Tony Stark, but take one character that we know, and start from scratch. Play that same template out again. One of our main characters undergoes, whether it's a crisis of conscience, maybe something happened during the blip and she failed, like a story. You could have told us any story. I am perplexed. Why? I mean, look, Iman Vellani's delightful. She was great, but I just didn't care. I feel no sense of urgency. I don't think, if we know that they don't know where they're going, why should I care? Why should I care? You gave us 23 interconnected movies that all led up to the 1-2 awesomeness of Infinity War and Endgame. And now, I have to tell you, I have not watched, other than Shang-Chi, which I'll admit, I enjoyed maybe more than most people, because I love the whooshy aspects of it. I haven't watched any of the Marvel movies a second time in Phase 4 and 5. I don't need to ever watch any of them again. I loved Iron Man. I loved Thor. I loved Captain America, the First Avenger. I don't care about these movies. And it's weird because I ask myself, why don't I care about them? I mean, they're fine, I guess. But I'm like, why are you telling these stories in this way? I don't know. I don't understand why this story. And then, spoiler alert, then they go and they start playing with this Fox X-Men bullshit stuff. Look, I can't wait to see Wolverine and Deadpool together. I can't wait. Just because I know the two of them are going to make it wildly entertaining. I loved both Deadpool 1 and 2. But again, it's all gimmicky. I mean, as much as I get it, it's gimmicky. So once again, you have a Fox. This is the second. I'll just say it. It's Kelsey Grammer. So Beast shows up again in another universe, the Fox universe. I don't understand why they are leaning into this bizarre idea of polluting the MCU with the Fox X-Men. And I love the X-Men. The X-Men movies, hit and miss. I mean, I love X-Men 1, X-Men 2, and Days of Future Past, I think, are bangers. And those 3 movies that Brian made, I think, are great. And if those are the only X-Men movies you watch, great. I think those are all legitimately really, really great superhero movies. I love First Class too. I love Logan. But I mean, it's like, why are they doing this? Why don't they just establish their own X-Men? I don't understand why they can make Deadpool and Wolverine. Those are Fox characters. Deadpool's not even in the Marvel Universe. As far as I'm concerned, that's not even an MCU movie. They're saying that I know he's going to cross over. But to me, it sounds silly to say this about comic book movies. But the idea of the multiverse has shattered any interest I have in the MCU. It's completely shattered any interest because none of it matters. None of it matters. Whereas what was going on in the MCU for the first 23 movies, all of it was leading somewhere. This was leading fucking nowhere. And I did not like it. The Marvels I'm like, why are you telling this story? Why was this story? To me, Captain Marvel, and say what you want about Brie Larson, she's an Academy Award-winning actress. But you can't give an Academy Award-winning actress a superhero movie where she can't play something that's worthy of her Academy Award. Give me a really interesting character study about Captain Marvel. Give her a something that has real personal stakes that means something to her. Maybe have her fuck up where all of her powers couldn't. I go back to Richard Donner's Superman, all those powers, and I couldn't save him. When Superman's talking about the death of his father. Look right there. Give Carol Danvers that kind of a story. Hell, go through the Bible and pick your favorite Bible story and adapt it. Give her something that she can't, that her powers can't fix. I don't know what that is, but this movie, I'm watching this movie and I'm thinking to myself, why did they make this movie? And I don't mean that. I don't mean to be snarky. I mean, why did they make this story? What was it about this story they felt that was worth making? I don't know. And I didn't. So the only thing to me that was at all very interesting is Monica Rambeau finds herself in the Fox X-Men universe. Well, so what? The problem is those are characters that would be like, take your pick. Those characters, while they're, yes, the X-Men, they're not the X-Men of the MCU. They're cross-pollinating this weird, it's a weird thing. It doesn't work. And I don't want to see it. I want to see the MCU version of those X-Men. But you know what? It's weird because with Spider-Man No Way Home, those movies are now part of the Marvel Cinematic Universe. They're different. I just don't know why they keep wanting to do that. I don't get it. Because I think that while No Way Home made $2 billion, and I know that was a gimmick people want to see, just like they want to see, I think Deadpool and Wolverine will make $2 billion too, if it's good. But I personally, as a moviegoer, I can't believe it, no interest in Marvel anymore. Zero. I mean, I'll always obviously watch their shows. Echo looked good. The trailer for Echo looked good. And I love those things, but why watch them? I don't know. Somebody sends in a tip. Anonymous sends in a tip. I don't know if it's the same tip from Marvels. Maybe it is. But Rob, the Marvels had some erotic thriller moments, from Flurkins using their octopus tongues to kidnap human beings inside their bodies. You didn't love the scene where everybody sings on a planet when they talk to each other? Oh, dude, come on. So much erotic. That's not really... I mean, it would be really interesting. Look, I'll tell you something. The only thing interesting right now as far as superheroes go is The Boys and Gen V. Because The Boys and Gen V, they bring it. And also for all of the filthy and for all the stuff that they do, the stories are compelling. The stories have interesting political angles, social angles, personal angles. They are doing superheroics correctly. Everything else, don't care. And I hate to say it. I wish that wasn't the case. I mean, I really do. I find the whole thing bizarre to me. And I don't know. 200 Watt Studio says, The Swimmer is great. A metaphor about someone that doesn't realize he's no longer welcome in high society that he once swam in. Yeah, if you guys haven't seen it, Burt Lancaster and The Swimmer, it's a really interesting movie. You should all check it out. Efren Guzman is here. How's it going? Efren, how are you? From Collider Heroes to Robservations, congratulations on 900 and counting. John opened the door, God rest his soul, and you kept it open. That's very nice of you to say. Thank you for your knowledge. Question for you. What was your worst and best sex time? Was there a worst? I don't know about that. A worst. You know what? One does come to mind. I wouldn't say it was worse. It was bad. It was just, I hate to say this, boring. It was boring. And it was something unexpected that had been building up in my younger days. It happened when I was in college with somebody I'd known for a long time. And I was just disappointed by it. It was a weird thing. It was just a weird thing that probably shouldn't have happened. It was not bad, but it was just boring. And my best every time's my best time. I've told the story. It's too long of a story to tell, but the best time overall, just because of how it all went down, was the first night I spent in Europe, in Spain. Yeah, I've told that story before, but it's a long story to tell. To tell it properly, to explain why it was so great, it was just, again, I met somebody I just met that night. I was being on my best behavior, and this person led me down a path that took me to the most erotically charged evening I ever had. It was unexpected. It was amazing. Twas amazing. Scott Bartholomew says, how will the strike resolution affect Trek offerings moving forward? Well, I don't know about that. I think what's going to affect Trek offerings moving forward is Paramount Plus's or Paramount Global's stock price. Star Trek is an expensive show to make, and I am unconvinced that it is the success. I think the reason Star Trek keeps getting made is they're upping the value of the franchise entirely, because all these new Star Trek shows, for somebody to purchase them in the future, it doesn't matter. No one's going to sit there and complain what's good. See, here's what fans don't understand about franchises. The people that are making them, I mean, it's not necessarily about the fandom. If you were to talk to Paramount brass, and if I would try and explain why I don't like Discovery or Lower Decks or Strange New Worlds or Prodigy, actually, comparatively speaking, Prodigy is probably the best of all of them, other than Picard Season 3, their eyes would glaze over. Because most people, the people that now control Hollywood, don't understand the difference between a good franchise offering or a bad franchise offering. If they look at the MCU underperforming, like Captain Marvel is underperforming, there's going to be a lot of people wondering, well, how come this underperformed? It underperformed because the story they chose to tell was not interesting. Some people, I'm sure, I don't begrudge anybody that likes it, but look what they've already given us. If you are living in a post-Endgame universe, they haven't even dealt with the ramifications. There's something so interesting about the fact that what happens when half the universe winks out of existence for 5 years? What does that do to the universe? What does that do to anybody? I mean, Captain Marvel was alive during that time. Thor became Dad Bod Thor or Fat Thor because he couldn't deal with the guilt. Why not tell that story? They still haven't. It's like, la-di-da, Thanos snapped us all away for 5 years. No one has dealt with a story about the ramifications of what happens after. It's been touched on like it was just another day at the work office, just another day. And they could have used Captain America. They could have used a Captain Marvel to deal with, I mean, you want to tell a collective trauma story, you want to do something topical, you could have told a story about a woman who, for the 5 years that she was trying to keep the galaxy together, something happened to her. I don't know what it was, but something happened to her that either left her broken, left her changed, left her questioning herself, left her not all in one piece, or something was wrong. And you could have even seen, they could have done a montage and showed us what did she have to deal with cosmically during the 5 years after Thanos' snap. What planets fell to terror or fell to ruin? I don't know. And she was out there fighting that good fight, but there was no one fighting for her. There was no one helping her. Because of her power, she was the only one, and that takes your toll after 5 years. God knows what shenanigans she had ended up getting in the middle of. That's what you should have done. And the thing is, you follow Iron Man 1. Captain Marvel would have been the perfect character to do that with. It would have been probably too soon, but you could have done a story, and it would have been, you take the temperature of the MCU through Carol Danvers, a woman who literally went through hell. I mean, what do we have? It's interesting because we had talk to any nurses that were at the hospitals that were full of COVID patients. What if Carol Danvers was the galactic equivalent of that? And after the Thanos snap, she had, I don't know. I mean, no one asked me, but then she has to go through a crucible. You know, that she has to build herself back up and make herself feel worthy. Or I don't know. But tell us a really great story about Carol Danvers. And what does it mean to be Captain Marvel in a universe gone mad? Instead, we get this weird hybrid story that is not particularly that interesting. I mean, if you're a $1 billion film character like Carol Danvers, like Brie Larson is, why in your second movie are you saddled with TV characters? And I mean no disrespect, but it's like, come on, man. Tell me a fucking galactically important story about the MCU that tied in to the Celestials, that tied in to the Eternals, that tied into what was next. You know, instead, this girl boss, mediocre, frustrating. And the thing is, what's even more frustrating is that they decided to greenlight that story. Why? Why would you do that? I mean, what's really interesting is they go back, and I haven't done the research yet, but like Winter Soldier wasn't exactly Ed Brubaker's run, but they looked at Brubaker's run. Age of Ultron. I mean, I've always loved Ultron, but a lot of the stuff they were going back to the comics. And this just seemed like this weird, ill-conceived story that when I was watching it, I wasn't interested in it. I'm just like, this is not from here's the key. If you're going to tell me a great superhero story, you need to tell me the human story about that superhero. That's what all of the great superhero stories are. People don't understand. You want to make a great Superman movie? You tell me the story about the human being that Superman is. I know he's from Krypton. I know he has superpowers, but you know what I mean? I mean, Superman and Lois, the first season, was interesting because Superman, his superpowers can't help him be a dad. And maybe that's not what we want to see from Superman, but it's a compelling and interesting story. And that's what we need. That's what we need. So, I don't know, man. I don't know. Do you think Disney's Snow White remake will get Batgirled? Says Joseph Michael. I don't know, man. I don't understand. It's weird to me because this stuff hasn't happened before. The James Gunn movie, Coyote versus Acme. Here's what I don't get. If Space Jam 2 can make more money, make almost $200 million, the premise of this movie, I want to see it. Like, I know if a movie is Coyote versus Acme, I know that it was the New Yorker or something. The original article is from 30 years ago in the New Yorker. That's interesting to me. Just like She-Hulk could have really been an interesting movie interesting series about the MCU if they stuck to its own premise. Jessica, Jennifer, she has to deal with the legal ramifications of superheroic shenanigans. That alone, that's a great idea that they could have delved into. And I don't know, maybe looked at the Byrne comic. But the way that story was written, it wasn't really about She-Hulk that much. And it was more about, I don't know what it was about, but it could have, because through that prism, they could have really examined where was the Marvel Universe now and what's going on. There was a little bit of that, but it was always played too goofy, because there's really interesting, it could have been comedic, but really interesting ethical concerns in the world of superheroes. And they could have made a humorous show like that, but really delve into serious issues. Could have been really pretty good. But they didn't. Of course, no one asked me. So what are you going to do? Man says, first of all, Jack Mabelzoff just sends in a tip. Thanks, Jack. Appreciate it. Man says, my man Rob, congratulations on 900. You're the best on YouTube. Sorry I can't watch every show. Well, there's 900 shows. Who can watch? I can't even believe I did 900 shows. Joseph Michael says, by the way, is John Campea a Bob Iger shill or what? Well, to be fair, I think we both liked Bob Iger a lot. And John was was a big fan of like the parks, like him and Anne. They like going to different parks, like Universal, because they like Harry Potter and stuff. So he liked the parks. And I think that he was really concerned with what happened to Disney as a brand and how things were run after Iger left. And I think that a lot of people thought Iger coming back would make things better. But obviously the world had other plans. So, yeah, I don't think he's necessarily a shill, but I mean, he liked the Disney company when it was run under Iger's reign, I guess. George Giant Slayer says, congratulations, my friend. Sends in a super chat and says, on hitting 900, onward and upward, have you ever seen such inconsistent writing as Marvel's? I mean, that movie changed what it wanted to be every 10 minutes. And I was like, and the thing is, I liked Captain Marvel. I didn't love it, but I liked it. I saw it 3 times in the theater, 4 times, I think. I liked it. I enjoyed it. I enjoyed it as a B-level science fiction movie with ties to the MCU. I thought it was interesting. But again, they don't know what to do with Captain Marvel. I mean, I think, as you just heard me say, I think if I sat in a room with people for 30 minutes or an hour or 3 hours, we could have come up with a much better story. And it was just weird to take a $1 billion player and sort of give her this team and girl boss villain that, here's the thing. These people are going to be defeated. Whatever happened to people like Baron Zemo in Civil War, where it's like he kind of won. He wanted to take apart the Avengers. He succeeded. That's interesting. And it was personal. And I'm more interested in that. We don't get that. So George says, Disney needs to send a check to Mel Brooks for Spaceballs and that plot. All hail Rob. Well, that's another thing. If you know that plot comes from Spaceballs, how does that get through? I mean, I watched that movie and I'm thinking to myself, did they pay attention? Why is this happening? I don't know. It's maddening. King Tannic says, happy 900. Your thoughts on the current state of the MCU are interesting. I disagree a bit and I'd love to talk with you about it, but I can understand. Well, it's just, look, you had 23 movies that were epic in scope, that were also personal. The stakes were always personal. The best of those movies, it was all personal. Like, look, when you first meet T'Challa and T'Chaka in Civil War, they introduced those characters. They had gravitas. I mean, beautifully written. They should just get Marcus and McFeely back. I just don't know what's going on. I really don't. I don't understand it. And then they introduce T'Challa, and then they build on him. And then you get to see Black Panther. And they make you love him in Civil War because he was great. And then they make you love him even more in Black Panther. Even though Black Panther, I think, is a little by the numbers, I still love all those characters. I love Wakanda. I love Okoye. You know what I'm saying? Where are my Dora Milaje Hot Toys figures? Why? Why are they so racist in Hong Kong? Why can't I get beautiful, bald, black women wearing hot costumes? Why can't I would buy 10 of them. Why can't I get them? Why is somebody so afraid of making a Okoye? I don't understand. Give me the Dora Milaje, and not in that end costume that was in Wakanda Forever. I want the Dora Milaje. They're like stormtroopers. When I was a little kid, you could never have too many stormtroopers. You needed an army of stormtroopers. They didn't make the rebel Tantaviv. They didn't make the rebel guys for a long time. You had to wait to get rebel troops to like get the Empire figures. But stormtroopers, the more stormtroopers you had, I want 10 Hot Toys Dora Milaje figures to surround my throne in Wakanda, and Shuri is sitting there ready to kick ass. Give them to me. Why haven't you made a Okoye? You're racists. That's why. That's why. I want a Okoye. Give me a Okoye. And by the way, speaking of Marvel, did you read the report that said that because of shitty test screenings, Captain America Brave New World is having 3 scenes, big scenes, reworked, and they've now pushed it into like another year? How the fuck does this happen? Okay? I mean, Marvel used to be, how do you not know? How can you possibly go in and make a movie called Captain America Brave New World and fuck it up? How do you do that? I mean, look, no, how do you not know? This is Marvel. How do you not know your scripts aren't good? You know, you're coming off, you've got Captain America, the Winter Soldier, and Captain America Civil War. And you're telling me that Captain America Brave New World, you can't come up with a great script? Are you fucking, what? What the hell's going on over there, Kevin? What's going on? I don't get it. But I'm like, when I read that, I'm like, Jesus Christ, really? I mean, to be honest, Marvel's dead. Marvel's a dead brand. Sure, they'll make more. But they need to seriously start and regroup. What the hell's going on? I don't know. How do you fuck all this up? I mean, you've got 30 movies. You have the most successful franchise. And every one of these movies, look, I really liked Eternals for my own, personal reasons. Is it a good MCU movie? Nothing in that movie is ever referenced again. A giant celestial sticking out of the Earth's. I mean, anybody who does a cursory glance would have said, "Wow, if this celestial kept coming out of the planet, the entire Earth would have cracked open." Arishem the Judge, hey man, Thanos just snapped us back, and now we're dealing with celestials that are bigger than the planet. No one seems scared. Yeah, whatever. It's all good, dude. I mean, speaking of that, Anonymous says, so after the Marvels, the world is still not freaking out about the Celestials sticking out of the ocean or Arishem coming back to judge. By the way, this is right here. It's just a normal Tuesday. Yeah, what the hell, man? That's so lame. Joe the Lawyer says, hi, Rob, and congrats. I caught the beginning and heard the Prog core D&D stuff. Man, I can take old school D&D and cultural shifts forever. Let me know if you want to yak about it on a stream. Listen, remember, that's Todd Stashwick's. Prog core is Stashwick's flag to carry. I'm just here to spread the word. Spread the word. George the Giant Slayer says, please tell me, how does a writer's room literally rip off Spaceballs? Still don't understand. Plus, Captain Marvel travels at light speed, but can't get anywhere in time. I love your streams, my friend. Well, thank you, George. Now, George the Giant Slayer, I want to do a show with George. I've been trying to connect with him called Lore. Because George is a very smart man. He's very good with lore. And I would love to do deep dives into our franchises and talk about lore. What is it for each franchise? What is important about the lore? I think it'd be fun to do a weekly show and do a deep dive into the lore of IP. How important is it to adhere to the lore? I think it'd be a great thing. So I think we should do that, George. Dan Candy says, "Hey Rob, can you think of a cameo more random than James Doohan in Knight Rider 2000? That's pretty random. I have one for you. The most random cameo ever in the history of movies is Robert Duvall in Invasion of the Body Snatchers, 1978, as he plays the priest on the swing. It's like, if you guys, first of all, if you haven't seen the holy trilogy of 50s remakes, they are Invasion of the Body Snatchers, 1978, with Donald Sutherland, John Carpenter's The Thing, and David Cronenberg's The Fly. Now, Chuck Russell also remade The Blob a few years later, which I just watched on 4K. It's pretty good. I don't know if I'd put it up on that level of the Holy Trilogy. The Holy Trilogy. The Holy Trilogy, they're not trilogies, and they're not trinities. So, the Holy Triumvirate of 50s remakes, I guess. So watch that. But in that movie, Robert Duvall, I guess, plays a pod person priest that's just there in the movie. He's a priest on a swing. And by the way, it's creepy as fuck, and it's really good. Jason Webster says, Robert Meyer Burnett, the Don Bradman of YouTube. Congratulations on reaching 900. Here's to hopefully celebrating 1,000 not out. First of all, I need to know, I don't know who Don Bradman is. Is that terrible? Well, here you go. This is, okay, here we go. The Don Bradman of YouTube. Is this who you're talking about? I hope it is. Bradman, Sir Donald George Bradman. He was born in 1908 and died in 2001, nicknamed the Don, was an Australian international cricketer. Is it cricketer? It's cricketer. Widely acknowledged as the greatest batsman of all time. His cricketing successes have been claimed by Shane Warne, among others, to make Bradman the greatest sports person in history. Well, I will take that. That is a great reference. I'm the Don Bradman of YouTube. I have to tell you, when I was in New Zealand working on Lord of the Rings, I developed an affinity for cricket and even played some games. Thank you to the people at Weta and to the people that helped us make the documentaries. Anonymous says, but Rob, aren't you excited for a Young Avengers movie teased at the end of the Marvels? So exciting. Look, somebody made an interesting suggestion and said that if the Kang version of young Iron Man ended up having to defeat himself in the Kang dynasty, that might be interesting. That could be interesting. I don't mind the young Marvels. I think they've been teasing it the whole time. I just don't think they've made anyone care enough about it that it's going to work. Right now, it doesn't work. Haley Steinfeld is great. I love her. She's great as Kate Bishop, but she had nothing to do. If you're going to do a young Iron Man movie, then replay the arc of the original MCU films and give me the young version of Iron Man. As a matter of fact, it would have been interesting to do that, and that's maybe what they should have leaned into. But make it different. But at this point, I don't care about any of the Marvel. The only one I want to see is Deadpool 3, whatever that is, because it'll be hilarious. And they'll do all kinds of irreverent things, and it'll be a lot of fun. But the rest of the MCU, it's. I mean, Thor: Love and Thunder and Quantumania, almost, and Captain Marvel or Marvels. Don't care. I just don't care. Wraith X7 says the movies made the mistake of adapting the current comic book version of Captain Marvel the character has not been very popular. I know they keep trying. She's like Fetch. They keep trying to make it happen. I don't know why they leaned into that. I really don't. I don't know. King Tannic says, come on, Rob, you know you want to shoot the shit about the MCU with me. Do what must be done, my apprentice. Well, you weren't here earlier. So I'm just saying. You weren't here earlier. I'm just saying. George the Giant Slayer says, let's do it. Well, we should do it. We will, George. We will. We should talk tomorrow. Whovian for Life says, congrats on show 900. Can we see a little more Doctor Who love for you on the 60th anniversary? Your thoughts on the Disneyfication of the Whoniverse? God, I hope they don't fuck it up. I mean, look, to be fair, I really liked, since the Ninth Doctor, Christopher Eccleston. I was in, man. I was in. And I really enjoyed it. And I'll tell you something. I mean, I liked, I have a total man crush on Captain Jack. I really do. And I think of all the modern Doctor Who stuff, my favorite is Torchwood Children of Earth. I think Torchwood Children of Earth, those 5 episodes are some of the best televised science fiction we've had in the last 20 years. The show itself is a little, seasons 1 and 2 are all over the place, but I really did I liked the Russell T Davies stuff a lot. I really did. And, Chibnall, but I've liked all the Doctors. It's just a question of, again, it comes down to the writing, the kind of writing. I mean, I think that the female Doctor Who, when you have a female Doctor Who, it's so weird to me that when you suddenly are going to do a gender swap, that, I mean, why does it have to be a thing? Why can't you still tell a Doctor Who tale? I don't know. I'm curious to see where they take Doctor Who. I really am. I don't know where they're going to go, but I'm curious to see where they go. I'm really curious. I hope it's good. But yeah, I mean, we should see. Look, I wish he's gone, but I would love to have seen a miniseries of the War Doctor. I mean, that was awesome. And that was for the 50th anniversary? I can't believe it's been another 10 years. That's crazy. It's like Bond. Scott Bartholomew says you need to do a weekly Trek franchise show on YouTube. I've thought about it, but I don't know. I mean, I'm kind of Star Trek'd out, to be honest. I mean, we're going to get Discovery. Don't care. I don't even think I'll watch. I just don't care. Strange New Worlds, again, 2 seasons of I don't care. Because it's not, you know what? It's not, give me, Strange New Worlds works because I like the actors and I'll just watch them do stuff. It's not good Star Trek, though. Give me a science fiction, allegorical, action-adventure show. That's what we're all looking for, right? George the Giant Slayer says, I tried watching The French Connection on Max. The fuckers edited key language in the scene between Gene Hackman, Popeye Doyle, and the drug dealer. Just ordered on Blu-ray. Need writing talent and actors like that. We do. We talked about that on the show when it happened, that there were edits made to make Popeye Doyle less racist. Let's take our main character, who is a racist cop, and try and make him less racist. Why are we such infants? I mean, human history is a charnel house of horrors that we visited on one another, and we can't handle it. It's not good. I'm not digging it. And I don't know what's going on. Let's see. Let's see if what we got here. This is a really interesting letter I wanted to read. It's from Keith. I think it's O'Neill. Keith O'Neill. This is a great letter. Is geek culture in the last days of disco? Hey, Rob. If the year 2023 had a legacy, to me at least, it is the year geek culture essentially died in pop culture. I tell my friends we're in the last days of disco when it comes to stuff like Marvel and Star Wars being cool and mainstream. For those who don't know what it means, the last days of disco is a term for we are witnessing the end of a trend. It also happens to be the name of a well-made movie. That's a Whit Stillman movie. Metropolitan, Last Days of Disco. I love those movies. For those, anyway, think about it. Every single comic book movie released this year, aside from Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3, flopped or severely underperformed at the box office. The Marvels looks to be the next big disappointment for Marvel Studios, coming hot off the heels of the wet fart that was Secret Invasion. I used to love this stuff. If you were to tell younger me when we get a limited series telling us what Obi-Wan Kenobi was up to after Revenge of the Sith that I'd be apathetic, I would have been baffled. Sadly, I think no matter what James Gunn does with DC Studios, it'll be too late. Nobody cares about DC anymore, including me, who is a champion for the Snyder Cut of Justice League to be released, which I really liked. If Michael Keaton coming back as Batman can't put butts in seats, nothing can. My sense of doom and gloom isn't exclusive to geek-centric movies and TV shows. It extends to comic books. They conveniently don't even publish the sales figures anymore, since both Marvel and DC Comics have Penguin Random House distribute the comics. The actual sales figures are a mystery these days. Obviously, if they were so good, they'd scream them from the mountaintops. That is a letter for another day. I know you've said pop culture has a shelf life of 20 years, a half-life. But I think with the amount of shows and movies we get, it's even shorter these days. It just accelerated how quickly things get stale. Like Barry White once said, too much of anything is no good for you, baby. Am I being pessimistic? Did the normies' love of geek culture die when Big Bang Theory ended in 2019? Let me know. And more importantly, stay metal. P.S. To get the full effect of this letter, I suggest viewers at home listen to The Beginning is the End of the Beginning by the Smashing Pumpkins as you read it. Ha ha. Well, go turn that on and play this back. Well, Keith, are we in the last days of disco? Don't fuck with my disco, Nadine. That's a Stan reference. I think that's actually a really interesting way to put it. But again, we are only ever one great movie away from something being revitalized. Look, I thought Rocky was done until Creed came along. 3 Creed movies later, which, by the way, while Creed 2 wasn't genius, and I thought Creed 3, I really liked Creed 3, actually. I thought Jonathan Majors was a force of nature in that movie. And I thought Michael B. Jordan did some really interesting things, bringing his love of anime into the fight scenes. Who would have thought that those movies would be good? All people want are good movies. And the Critical Drinker, when he quoted me in saying that the currency of the 21st century is authenticity, that's always been the currency of great storytelling. Authentic. As I've said over and over again on this show, the more truth your fiction has in it, the better your fiction will be. And I think what's happened is when we're watching stuff like Quantum Mania, I'm watching this movie and I'm thinking to myself, it seems silly to say, but you're watching a cliche, weird story that we've seen variations of 100 times before, which is weird because the Ant-Man movies were charming and interesting because of their small scale. I've often said that the climactic battle on the toy train in Scott Lang's Daughters in Cassie's bedroom, who would have thought you would have seen that? Yellow Jacket fighting Ant-Man on a toy train. It was right out of Wallace and Gromit. And it was great. It was so much fun. And it was in a Marvel movie. And how do you get rid of Michael Pena? How does he not why he has not recapped what happened in the Marvel universe with the whole Thanos saga? I don't know. I don't know why somebody didn't have him do that. But I just feel like I don't, and this is what's so weird to me. Here's what I think, what has been going on now. You know, the Acme versus Coyote versus Acme thing. Okay, I'm sure they ran the analytics, you know, whatever analytics they run, and somehow somebody, whatever report told them this, that the awareness wasn't there, that whatever ridiculous analytics that they read or ran. I'll tell you, okay, let me tell you a story that I think is relevant. And again, it's my old stories. I feel like I should turn off this YouTube channel because I've just run out of telling stories, but they keep becoming more pertinent as the days go by. So I produced the special feature documentary, the feature-length documentary on the making of Tron that was on the 20th anniversary Blu-ray that came out in 2002. When I was told when I was kind of given it, Disney, my minders at Disney, my boss at Disney, David Jessen and the boys, John Bernstein, it was really like, just do a documentary that's like 15 minutes. You know, it's just Tron. And I'm like, what? And they told me that for their catalog, their releases of catalog titles, they would do polling of like Disney people that are interested in Disney product, and how excited are you to get this product. They polled mothers that had children 5 and under about Tron. Are you excited about the 20th anniversary DVD of Tron coming out? Well, guess what their answer was? No, they weren't. Because mothers with 5 kids, 5 and under, don't give a fuck about Tron. They don't even know what Tron is. So they're polling these people, and, you know, they've gotten great feedback before. They have no reason to doubt these polls. But here's the fucking problem with all corporations, especially when you're dealing with the entertainment industry. Whoever did the research, or by whatever metric they decided to pull, I would love to read the report. They never say why. This is so out of left field because somebody does not know what fucking Coyote versus Acme even fucking is. So whatever the people that even did the polls, I guarantee you, some schmuck, some guy, I keep thinking of Lydecker, the deleted scene from Aliens when they're on LV-426 and they're at the Weyland-Yutani, you know, terraforming thing, and the guy's complaining about a cushy office on Earth. Check out a grid reference. This is what happens. You have people, and this is what is wrong in a nutshell. What's wrong with the corporately owned studio system right now? None of the people that work, and I shouldn't say none, but a lot of the people that work at the studios do not know anything about their product. They don't know about their legacy product, and they don't know anything about movie making, and they don't even understand why anybody is interested in any of their product, because they don't know what it is. I mean, when I worked at Warner Brothers for the first time back in 1989-90, I was bouncing around the studio. I wandered around that studio. I went and talked to people all over that lot. I had a pager. When they needed me, I'd go back. I spent my days, I was hardly ever in my office because I worked for Bill Young, who is Senior Vice President of Feature Production. So I could go anywhere I wanted to on the Warner lot. It didn't matter if we were shooting a movie there. If I wanted to go to the set of Joe versus the Volcano and Stage 16 when they're shooting a big storm sequence, I could do it. I could just walk down, and that's when I met Meg Ryan and Tom Hanks. Hey, how's it going? You know, I mean, I could do anything because I was interested. And you could go, and if you talked to people and you had interesting things to say to them, and you knew, because you're already on the lot, they just assume you're supposed to be there. And if anybody did ask me who I was, I'm like, oh, I work for Bill Young, and I work for the Senior Vice President of Physical Production. Everyone's like, oh, so you could go anywhere you wanted to. Do you think that would happen today? No. No one gives a fuck. They don't even know anything. They wouldn't know where to go. They would not know that. You see that? That's the time machine from Nicholas Meyer's Time After Time. Yes, it was in the mill at Warner Brothers until some dumb fuck put it in a music video. They took it off the wall, repainted it. It looked like shit. If I drove that fucker off the lot, nobody would have known. They had the V shuttles sitting outside from V. Nobody cares. The people that are working at Warner Brothers now, Warner and Disney just had their 100th anniversaries. Did you read the article in the Hollywood Reporter? Will home video come back? We'll talk about it tomorrow, and let's get physical media. But where's the 4K of 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea? Where's the 4K of Mary Poppins? They didn't really celebrate. They put out one $1,500 box set with Blu-rays without even the special features. Where's the celebration? Where's the rich cinematic legacy? Where's the fucking 4K of Fan-fucking-tasia with a Dolby Atmos mix, you twits? I mean, this is our... They're wondering, oh, we're not making any money. You don't know how to fucking make money. You're trying to use Wall Street. I mean, the reason I'm sure they polled people, Coyote versus Acme. What does that even mean? Because the people they're asking, I bet the people at Warner Brothers couldn't tell you what Coyote versus Acme means. I mean, my God, we grew up watching Looney fucking Tunes, man. And they don't know. So somebody made a decision, oh, it's not going to make any money. How do you fucking know? You don't even know what it is. You know, if you work for Warner Brothers and you don't know what Coyote versus Acme is, fuck you, you should be fired. And the fact that David Zaslav, he doesn't know what it fucking is. If you went to him, hey man, it's Looney Tunes, he would have been like, what? You know, Looney Tunes. He wouldn't know what it is. I bet you $1 million that if he was at the Coyote, he had to be told. He had to be told what Looney Tunes was. I guarantee you these fuckers don't know fuck all about anything. They know nothing about the studio's legacy. The people that are deciding what they should put out on 4K at Warner Brothers, I go off on Warner Brothers all the time. They don't know anything about the studio. I mean, speaking of, look, wait, hang on. I've been rearranging so much stuff. I have stacks. Look at this. Look at this. Okay. All right. Oops. Stuff spilling. Okay. I'm just going to give you an example. Who the fuck thought this was a good idea? Okay. Somebody made some, goofy, funny. Okay. Thank God they put the actual original. This is actually what the original poster looked like. But we have people at the studio that commission this kind of artwork. I mean, you see it, get it? There's the pregnant woman and there's the devil head. I mean, this devil. What fucking brain trust came up with this? Somebody who probably never saw the movie. Probably read a thing. This is the problem. No one knows anything anymore at the studio level. They don't. I mean, if you asked Walt Disney, if you went to Walt Disney Home Entertainment right now, and you asked them, hey, you guys must be working on a bunch of stuff, right? You're working on a bunch of stuff. You know what they're working on? I can't tell you exactly. I can't say what they are, but I can tell you they're working on 5 movies. That's it. There's so much. The fact that there's not a 4K of Fan-fucking-tasia and Fantasia 2000. I worked on the first physical media I ever worked on was, other than for Enterprise, was Fantasia and Fantasia 2000, the Fantasia anthology. I bet if you went to Disney, half the people at Disney wouldn't even know what Fantasia was. I bet they wouldn't. I mean, my God, if you went, Mr. Stokowski, they'd be like, what the fuck are you doing? Yeah, well, I get it. Night on Bald Mountain? Ring a bell? No. They don't know. And this is the problem. All of the people are beholden to what Wall Street wants to do, how Wall Street wants to make money. That's what streaming, they made the mistake thinking, oh, first of all, there's only a finite number of houses in the world. And you can't you raise your prices because you want growth. It doesn't happen that way. Here's the great thing about streaming that Hollywood never had before, from my perspective. The great thing about streaming was that for the very first time, a studio that has its own streamer like Disney Plus, they know that every household here, if I had started Disney Plus, here's what I would think. Every family on earth
Every people on Earth around the world that have kids are going to want to have Disney Plus. We have a endless, as long as there's a lot less fucking going on in this country. So, but there's as long as people are having children, and I don't see that happening anytime soon. We're not sterile yet, but there's going to be new kids all the time, which means Disney Plus will always be relevant. So here's the thing: at some point, you have to pick what number it's going to be. At some point around the world, all of the households, there's 8 billion people in the world. How many households are there? How many places in the country or in whatever country are actually going to get your streaming service? And pick a number. Let's just say it's 500 million. Or your number that you want to get is 10%. Let's just call it 1 billion or whatever. You want to get 1 billion households. Okay? That's your number. But you should think to yourself, okay, if we had 1 billion subscribers and everybody was paying ultimately $20 a month, $20 billion of that money coming in, 20 billion. Now Wall Street said, well, how are you going to make every month? It's got to be more. No. There's no more. That's the ceiling. That's it. You're at 1 billion, 500 million, wherever it is you're going to be. That's where you're going to stay. That's when, when Hitch tells you that's where you're going to live. Just do this. Remember in the movie Hitch? He tells Kevin, you're going to live right here. You're going to live there. So you're going to get, with 1 billion, you're going to get 20 billion a month. That's a lot of cash flow. What studio has ever had that in the history of Hollywood? None. So you're getting that from mostly legacy stuff. Now it's Disney. So Disney's one studio. They're not licensing other people's stuff. Whatever they're going to make is going to go on Disney Plus. That's they're going to get. So they want to keep it steady. I get it. That's what you want to do. You own a lot of stuff, keep it steady. And then you put that away. You can't, Wall Street's like, no, you have to constantly get more. There is no more. You've hit the ceiling. That's it. But what we do have now is stability. We have $20 billion coming in every month times 12. That's a great business. That's what you go. You want your shareholders to know that that's a baseline. Just like with your parks. Your parks are a baseline too. You're not building more and more and more parks, really. You can't do that. So you got to keep your parks at a certain level. But wanting more and more and more and more all the time is ridiculous because you can't have more and more and more all the time. Eventually, just be steady. You want to invest in a company that's going to be here in 50 years. I don't know. Nowadays, you have people that don't understand a movie studio. Their job is to make movies and TV. That's it. That's their job. And, be a streamer too. And every time they make another movie, they have that much more as part of their library, part of their legacy. And if you have a streaming service, like here's what I understand. Like, why on the streaming services are they not doing what TCM used to do? Why aren't you curating? Why aren't the streamers investing in curation of their movies and do shows like have a weekly show about, okay, here's what's coming to Max, and they go on and they do deep dives into their genres, whether it's horror, superhero, gangster. Why doesn't Warner Archive, which are doing amazing work with their disc releases, why don't they have their own channel on Max? And why aren't people making it hip? Why aren't you going to like college students and go, hey, check out how funny people were back in the 40s. And you can watch Warner Brothers gangster movies or go pre-code. I'm going to show you one of the only things I got this week on Let's Get Physical Media. Louise Brooks, Pandora's Box. This movie, which most people haven't seen, but you should see it. This is a really interesting view of what sexuality was like in a pre-code era. This movie was made in 1929. Yeah, Pandora's Box. You know what Pandora's Box is? Female sexual desire. I've been trying to open that box my whole life. Yeah. But nobody knows. And that's why Hollywood's a mess. No one knows. They don't know. And because the people working in the studios don't know their own product. I'm not saying everybody's that way. But for the most part, they don't know. So they can't step up and go, I didn't even finish my Tron story. I got totally derailed. Let me bring you back to the Tron story. I knew I knew this is something that I knew. Why? Because I spent my life studying this shit and not just being a fan, but I started working in home entertainment when I was 13 years old, the second video store in the United States. So I knew that in our Nintendo, PlayStation world, that in 2002, everyone had become a gamer. Tron was a favorite movie. And if people hadn't seen it, they'd heard of it. And then our new video game world, are you fucking kidding me? So I said, no, I'm not going to do 15 minutes of special features. I'm going to give you an 88-minute documentary on the making of Tron, and I want to make it as extensive as I can, kind of like a Cinefex article, the magazine Cinefex. That's what I wanted to do. I kind of went off the res. And, we were working on Lord of the Rings, too, at the time, so Michael Pellron didn't care, so my boss was like, whatever. And I ended up making a 88-minute documentary that was nominated back for the DVD Exclusive Awards for Best Catalog or Best Retrospective Documentary of the Year. My doc that I edited and directed. Disney was kind of pissed, but you know what happened? Tron was their largest selling catalog title that year, and those idiots at the time had no idea that was going to happen. I did. I said, you guys are crazy. You're polling mothers of 5-year-old children about Tron, and you're making decisions based on that? That, in a nutshell, is what's going on now in Hollywood. Those are the kinds of things that they're doing. Well, and they're always going to tell you, go in and you pitch a story, and they'll give you some bullshit about some demographics, or this is popular now, and this, that, and the other thing. They're always trying to, because they don't know themselves. They have to look at all this fucking research. Do you know what sells? Great stories, well told. That's it. It's been the same ever. Now people say, well, how do you know, Rob? Well, look, you got to find people that do know. If somebody said to me right now, if they said, Rob, you have 20 minutes to call your writing staff. You have to call 20 people in 20 minutes. We'll give you a little longer because I have to get their numbers. I tell you who those 20 people are that you should hire to make a Star Trek show. And I'd be right. I'd go get them. There's nobody in Hollywood that can do that. Everybody's second guessing. Why? Because they don't know. So they're always fucking scared because they know they don't know. This is the problem with the business. And then add to the fact that, we have to hire certain people, Don't hire the best people, because of whatever. That's why there's so many people. They've gotten rid of all the institutional knowledge. All the people that were older, hence more expensive. The people that have been around long, all the great home video executives, they're gone. Long gone. Both men and women. I mean, one of the people who I actually met subsequently, I was wanted to make a documentary for Colleen Benn over at Universal. I had one meeting with her. I never got to make something. I really wanted to make a documentary at Universal. I never got to do that. But I wanted to work for her specifically. Why? Because when I got the Laserdisc, the special edition Laserdisc of The Thing that they did, I think it came out in the early 90s, I was so impressed with the documentary and then the Jaws box set. I'm like, I want to make something with this woman, with this executive. And it was funny because when we actually met at this yearly lunch or something, and I told her, I always wanted to work for you. And she was like, really? She thought it was so strange that there was somebody in the world that wanted to work for him. Like, I loved what you did at Universal Home Video, or whatever. MCA Home Entertainment. I mean, it was, yeah. Anyway, I'm so off topic. I don't even know what I'm talking about anymore. Murray Reich says, have you seen The Holdovers? I have not yet. I enjoyed it immensely. Paul Giamatti gave a great performance. Very Oscar-worthy, emotional drama with some dark humor. Definitely check it out. I really want to see it. I love Alexander Payne. I will absolutely check it out. Everyone says it's great. By the way, George, you got to get the Blu-ray, but I've heard that the unedited version's being shown again. So, Anonymous says, hopefully by the 900th MCU film, they won't be stuck in the multiverse saga. You're right. Jermaine King says, if Zed from Zardoz and Emmanuel had a love child, it would be you, Rob.
happy 900th episode. Well, Jermaine, the real question is, which Emmanuel? Would you go for the Sylvia Crystal or Black Emmanuel? Laura Gemser, what would it be? You know, if you come over to my house, I got both box sets. We can watch them all. By the way, do you know what I don't have? I don't have Zardoz on 4K. Want to know why? Because it's a Fox fucking movie, and it's probably never going to come out. Although somebody else maybe in Europe has distribution rights. It's the 100th anniversary of Warner Brothers. Could somebody please tell me, why is there no fucking Excalibur 4K? Why is there no Right Stuff 4K? Why is there no Contact 4K? They could have done a whole genre selection. You know why? Because no one at the studio knows what the Right Stuff is. They don't know what Contact is. They don't know what any of these movies are. Scott Bartholomew says, I prefer to stay lost in TOS, TNG, DS9, Voyager, and Enterprise. Me too, Scott. Me too. So yeah, I'm right there with you. There's a really great letter I want to read, but it's really long. I can't read it. I can't read it tonight, but it's a letter I got from someone in Japan that I really want to read. This one comes from Rhett Coates. Rhett Coates says, Rob, I've discovered Robservations, and I'm enthralled at how passionate you are for Star Trek and its legacy. I, too, share that passion as an actor, a writer, and an eternal optimist. I do like the new shows. I watched TOS with my parents, and its first run on NBC is one of Lucille Ball's many great shows, and I'm hoping the new ones settle into Gene Roddenberry's actual vision. Yet I've realized that so far they don't compel me with ideals and ideas like the original series and the animated series and the Berman-era shows did. They do seem to be getting a bit better each season, so I'm continuing to watch to see how they adapt to our concern they are staying true to the characters. Or staying true from the Roddenberry ideal, different sentence. In 2005, I WJ registered a teleplay for an Enterprise Season 5, I love those characters, script. But the same day I sent it off was the day Les Moonves canceled the show. With renewed interest in giving that cast a better send-off than they had at the end of their fourth season, I rewrote the story and got it re-registered at the WGA earlier this year. Would you even consider reviewing the teleplay to see if I got right what Gene Roddenberry would have approved as his vision for the saga? Let me know if that's acceptable. It's written with what I feel his optimism brings out in my soul and in a way that uses Trek allegory to address a serious issue facing the recent revolutionary story which features Spock visiting Kirk's grave on Viridian 3. Throw Yeoman Colt from the cage. I merged canon details from everything known of the Enterprise series. The hope is to answer a possible honest solving of this real-life dilemma, and Star Trek is the perfect avenue for that potential. I'm hoping I got this story right, blending all I know of Trek canon, 55 years of it, so I'm asking for that flavor that you review this Enterprise story, with the hook being Guinan from TNG is visiting the NX-01 in the story. Why not? She's been visiting Earth at least since the 1800s. The potential logline is a dangerous unborn fetus still in its mother's womb makes its own choice if it will live or be aborted. Ooh. Let me know if this is something you would like and if you're legally allowed to read. I'm greatly interested in your opinion, considering what I'm observing of your passion for Star Trek and Robservations. I'm currently against a wall trying to find any script agency willing to take on an unknown author like me, but for now, just sharing it with someone who knows Trek's canon backwards and forwards and appreciates the tapestry. Ooh, I see what you did there. It had up through the mid-2000s. I feel it's worth the effort to ask here. Live long and prosper. You know what, Rhett? I'd read that. I totally would read that. I'd be interested to see your take. The problem is, people have come to me asking about their Star Trek projects, and I've read a few good ones. The problem is there's nothing you can do with those. The Star Trek property is controlled by a number of people. So Paramount, unless you've worked in TV, it's a very daunting proposition. But I'd read the script. It's funny. the thing that I would do with Enterprise, and Paramount owns this, Eric Jedrinson, who co-wrote Mission Impossible Dead Reckoning with Chris McQuarrie, he was one of the supervising producers of HBO's Band of Brothers. He was hired by Carey McCluggage when Carey McCluggage and Donald DeLine ran Paramount for a very short period of time. And they hired him to write a new Star Trek movie without Rick Berman, post-Enterprise. And he wrote what was being called Star Trek The Beginning, that I thought was... Paramount owns this script, but he only did one draft. And even he will tell you, Eric Jedrinson will tell you, that it should be rewritten. I thought the script had a terrific idea behind it. And it takes place 8 years after Enterprise. And you could easily bring the Enterprise cast into it. I've talked about this before. It's an incredible story. Imagine this opening for a Star Trek movie. And they're making by the way, this is so fucked, but they want to make a Starfleet Academy series. Well, Eric Jedrinson's script, Star Trek The Beginning, which should be made as 3 feature films, but the first feature film, here's the opening. I'll give you the opening. Imagine you see the Paramount Mountain, right? And you know when they do funny things with the Paramount Mountain or the Universal, the Earth? So you'd see the Paramount Mountain, and the camera would go up and over the Paramount Mountain. It would come down through the fog, and you find yourself in San Francisco Bay. And you come up on these boats, and it's regatta, and these like hover boats, call them hover catamarans or whatever. And it's graduation day for Starfleet Academy. And you have our admirals and all the brass is out watching, and it's all the cadets are having a boat race. And this is the thing that is it's the graduation thing. We've never seen this before in Star Trek. And we're meeting our main characters on these boats. And it's like a regatta. And hover boats, and of course one group comes in, smokes. It's very close. And that's how we introduce our characters. And it's all about the Vulcans and how the Federation is being formed. So Earth has lots of different aliens, and like Vulcans there's great touches. Like the Vulcans become there's one Vulcan character that finds 20th century science fiction movies amusing. And there's great throwaway jokes like that. But what ends up happening is that the Romulans, basically, who we've never met, we've never seen face to face, they demand that any planet that is harboring Vulcans expel those Vulcans, otherwise they will be attacked. It's call it ethnic cleansing if you want. And the plot begins, and Earth basically says, get bent to the Romulans. Starfleet says, no, we're not going to do that. We're not going to expel our Vulcans. And it goes from there. And I really liked the story a lot. I thought it was very Star Trekian. And the way Eric Jedrinson described it to me is that he wanted to do a series of 3 movies. He wanted to do the Odyssey and the Iliad, and he didn't know what the 3rd movie was going to be. And so right as he was delivering that script to Donald DeLine and Carey McCluggage, there was a transfer of power at the studio. The project was beached, and J.J. Abrams and Bad Robot, they came in and they took over the franchise. So Star Trek The Beginning, which could have been a really interesting, all new characters could have had cameos from the Enterprise cast. And it had a really interesting moral dilemma. And of course, there was a little bit of the Doolittle raid, in the sense that the Federation decided they were testing these new warp engines. They were going to take the fight to the Romulans. And it ended on a cliffhanger. And it was really, really good. And I really liked it. So you can probably find the script around if you want to read it. But what are you going to do? Yeah. So here's the thing. I'll read your script. Email it to me. I'll read it. I'd be very interested to read about that. I think it'd be good. I hope it's good. A really intriguing premise. So yeah. So a really interesting premise. So anyway, where are we? I don't even know. I'm talking. 200 Watt Studio says, Rob, we need you to interview Christine Wen. Do you need me to interview Christine Wen? I do know her. I will interview her. But yeah, I don't know her. I would interview her though. Hang on. If I knew anybody. See, the thing is, most of the people that I know, I can get to. Like the people that I've interviewed on the show, I would definitely I can get to them. But I don't know Christine Wen. I would like to know Christine Wen though. How could you not? But I don't know her. But hey, if she wants to come on the show, I'd love her to come on the show. Please do. If it's the Christine Wen that I'm thinking of, is it the Christine Wen that's in Get Him to the Greek? That Christine Wen? I don't know. Mario Lopez, our friend Mario Lopez, all the way from Portugal. Mario is here. Another person I got to know on this show. By the way, we haven't heard from Fernando Borrero in a while. I'm worried about Fernando. He was battling cancer, and we haven't heard from him in a while. I hope he's still okay. Man of Steel and Batman v Superman would be hits if they were made today. Probably would be. Look, I'm a big Man of Steel acolyte. I really love Man of Steel. Aside from the Jonathan Kent death, I really liked it. Yeah, I have not. But I would. I mean, I think they would be. I think, you know what? Here's the thing. I don't know if Batman v Superman would be a hit. I think Man of Steel might be more of a hit. I was surprised it wasn't more of a hit. I think Batman v Superman, as much as I actually enjoy it, especially the ultimate cut, is too overstuffed. And I think they should have. I think the movie needed to lean into Batman and Superman. I mean, I just would have liked to watch them go head to head the whole movie. With Wonder Woman and then Doomsday and Superman dying and all this, it was like it would have been a really interesting movie to watch a whole film where Batman and Superman are at odds about their methodology, you know, and they got in each other's faces, and they shouldn't have, and they didn't need all this other stuff. I would have liked to have seen that. Mr. Erickson asks if I've read the Emmanuel comics from the Italian maestro Guido Crepax. I don't know if Crepax is how you pronounce his last name. I have seen the Emmanuel comics, but I've never read the Emmanuel comics. And I know that there is, you know what? There was a box set. I saw a box set at Comic-Con. Was it Fantagraphics? Somebody had a box set. I think it was Fantagraphics. And I should have bought it, and I didn't. But you know, it's weird. Erotic comics like Milo Manara stuff, and it's okay. If you guys know a comic called Omaha the Cat Dancer, it's an '80s comic. It's a comic about animals, but there's a lot of fucking in it, and the animals are anthropomorphized. I always felt weird when I get turned on reading that comic. I'm like, this cat's hot, you know, and I'm like, it was weird. I'm not gonna lie. but yeah, erotic comics. Yeah, I don't know, but I've never read the Emmanuel comics. I'd like to see them though. This is a good question. Anonymous says, "Happy 900th, Rob. Here's a question for you. What is, in your opinion, the gold standard for media for children? That is, media that inspires children. My examples would be Winnie the Pooh, any older Star Trek series, and of course, Ultraman. That's a good question. Inspires children. You know, I'll tell you, when I was a kid, I liked Johnny Quest. I thought Johnny Quest was really cool in terms of an animated series. But there were other movies that I liked. When, like the Disney with Jodie Foster, the Disney movie Candle Shoe, I really liked. And you know, I liked other you brought up Ultraman, stuff like the Mysterians, there was, or Matango. I mean, I really liked Japanese sci-fi when I was a little kid because it was so cool. Or Jerry Anderson's Super Mario Nation shows, but I don't think they'd play well for kids today. But I liked Winnie the Pooh and Tigger too. And I loved Roald Dahl's books. When I was a kid, I loved the books. I loved Danny the Champion of the World. I loved the two, Charlie and the Chocolate Factory and Charlie and the Great Glass Elevator. I loved James the Giant Peach. I loved all of Roald Dahl's kids' books. I read them all. I thought they were great. I really like stuff like Encyclopedia Brown. Does that make me old? An old fuddy-duddy? There's a lot of because I was a kid, 50 plus years ago. So it's hard. And I think the thing that inspired me the most as a kid, other than classic Star Trek, was the Twilight Zone. Asking about the hunt earlier on in the show, I loved the Twilight Zone. I loved it as a kid. And what was really interesting when I was a kid? Everybody watched the Twilight Zone. We didn't even have marathons yet. It was on the weekends. And sometimes during the week, kids watched. You watch Twilight. I don't even think you could get kids to watch the Twilight Zone now. The original, the 5-season Twilight Zone. Every kid, I remember getting together with my friends and we'd start talking about our favorite. Every kid when I was growing up had a favorite Twilight Zone episode. Every kid could tell you the plot of a Twilight Zone episode. Most people would say Talking Tina or Breaking the Glasses. But some people would remember obscure shit. Like you'd get the Invaders. Yeah, these two little robot guys, man. But yeah, that's something that would inspire me. Our friend 1001 Johnny comes back and says, Dawn of Justice, the ultimate cut, is a perfect film, and Snyder's passion is very touching. But that's just me. And I asked the last question. I knew you asked the last question because you added Ultraman. Look, the thing about Dawn of Justice, the ultimate cut, again, I feel it's a little overstuffed. I think the Martha stuff's a little weird, but I would like to have seen more. Like, I loved when Superman, Bruce Wayne and Batman never met, and it was weird that Gotham City's across the bay from Metropolis. There was weird stuff in it, but I liked it. I mean, the nightmare the Apocalypse and Darkseid stuff. It's so weird that it's in there. Nobody knows what the fuck that is. It's great. Yeah. So it's good. I mean, I do like the ultimate cut of it. Torn to Watch Studio says, yes, she was the lap dancer and Get Him to the Greek. Yeah. And also a lot of Cinemax films. Oh, Cinemax films. Yeah, I just don't know her. I don't know how I'd get to her. She's hot, though. But I don't know anyone that knows her. Like, maybe I could reach out. Everyone's only a phone call away. You just have to figure out who it is. I don't know what I would say to her, though. You're really hot? Tell me about your childhood. Wraith X7 says, have you seen this CGI new Captain Scarlet series? The one that was done years ago? Like, not. Is there a new one that's recent new one? I like the one that they did, the CGI one they did, what, 10 years ago? I thought it was great. I love Captain Scarlet. I'm a huge Jerry Anderson fan. You can't really see it, but I was just playing with my, I was putting, like, here's a 22-inch Eagle, my technical manual, and an action figure of John Koenig in a spacesuit. Yeah, I've been moving stuff around. This is all, I didn't quite, I was trying to get my desk moved for the, I added Eric Draven to the band. he's shredding. Eric's shredding. And you can see Elvis and John Lennon. They were always, Elvis and John Lennon were always there, but I added Eric Draven shredding because I thought it would be kind of cool, even though he's not real. But I used to have him standing up there just like, I've conjured my spectral band, but now I figured, no, he has a guitar, he can play. Anyway, I was going to have people come on. I was going to do this pay or play thing if people wanted to come on the show, but it's been going on for 3 hours. I don't even know if now I want those crate packs. I want to get
the Manuel comics or whatever that. It's like a box set of all of his comics, I think. Something like that. Which I think would be great. I now I got to get them. Now I'm going to be obsessed with now to find those things. Now, you know what? If I can find this letter, I want to find this letter about, let me see. I want to find, if I can find it, it's a really interesting letter from Japan. Let me see if I can find it. It's buried in here. No, that's not it. I can't find it. It's a really long letter, but, oh wait, I found it. Okay. This is an epic letter and I've been wanting to read this. This is going to be a controversial letter. This is a great fucking letter. And, I've been sitting on this. I got it, on October 26th, but you know what? It's the 900th episode. So why not read this letter? This is a long letter and I'm going to read it. Greetings from Japan. I came by this letter to reach you for two reasons, but before I explain them to you, I must lay down a good story so the climax of my narrative can bring you a smile. I will leave all of my personal details and other names. You know what? This is a little smudgy. Hang on. This is a good one. I'm telling you. This is a controversial letter. It's an interesting letter. I will leave all my personal details and other names disclosed only to you at the end of the letter in case you find yourself impulsed to read it on your channel. Oh, I am. For your audience, it is sufficient to introduce me as a half-Japanese business owner in Kyoto, living in Japan since 1994. My sexuality and academic background is irrelevant. What is relevant is that I'm an avid listener of your show. I have deep gratitude for you, Mr. Burnett. Many were the hours and many were the times you brought me into your world. It is magnificent to be present when a real entertainer entertains. Well, I'm glad to hear you say that. I have a deep gratitude for you, Mr. Burnett. Many were the wee hours and many were the times you brought me into your world, and it is a real pleasure to be taken into a different world by intelligent words and well-thought-out oratories. Even your impromptu ones are well-structured and express very clearly your mind. Indeed, as Mr. Gary Nerdrotic Beekler calls you, you are a professor, a maestro, someone who combines your vast knowledge of TV and movies with the English language to compose us pure entertainment. Well, you and Gary are very nice. I don't. Somebody said that they were saying nice things about me on Friday Night Tights last night, which that's very nice to hear. For those wondering the reason for this, they greatly missed the point, for nothing depicted above was beyond the truth. The truth, Mr. Burnett, the new currency nobody invented, the treasure all want to possess, but rather bury under vanity and pride. The honest truth, opening the eyes of those who can handle the pure simplicity and yet astonishing complexity that is our human behavior. So let us talk about our behavior. Stressing focus on a word YouTube introduced me to around 4 years ago, the word woke. The woke behavior. I shall place my narrative. I shall place myself in this narrative as a normie. The word woke has subjective takes. I will elaborate my view on it further, but the adjective normie binds me to the following definition: a person who knows of pop culture, but not a fanatic, someone of limited understanding of the culture war, but do not cross any lines in order to contest the situation. I may miss some points here, but that is not where I want to take you. Here is where we are going. The Japan of today is the result of a woke impact of yesterday.
As a foreigner living in Japan, I came to the culture as many of you look at it. A well-behaved, clean, high-tech, creative, bizarre, eccentric, modern yet very traditional, millenniary history, I guess it means 1,000-year history, intricate craftsmanship, indisputable cuisine, green tea, an ocean of green tea. All of these were real back in 1994. And they are still real today in 2023, but as you arrive and understand Japan, another face appears. A face Americans are just tasting today. That of woke. Well, not the woke of yours, the woke of ours, for woke's sake. In my mind, the American woke culture for Americans is the willing to become better, to fix inappropriate behavior, to improve society in general, to repair any mistakes of the past, and show the world a better United States, a country that leads and is a noble example of progress. I think in its simplest form, that's what woke should be. If my wording is correct, and this is for you, Mr. Burnett, to confirm my words above, I confirm them, then I assume my depiction of woke mirrors a behavior that took place beginning in the 80s in Japan and still continues today. Back in the 1980s, Japanese were willing to become better, to fix inappropriate behavior, to improve society in general, to repair any mistakes of the past and show the world a better Japan, a country that leads and is a noble example of progress. Does that sound familiar enough? What caused this? Japan lost the war, slowly rebuilding its economy. I do not have to write here about the immense amount of pollution and destruction Japanese companies caused to the country. Anyone with an education should already know, but if you do not, Google search it. Back in the 50s and 60s, Japanese students were fighting the police and politicians. In the 1970s, Bohemia was embraced and everybody overworked their genitals. All these years were laced with alcohol, cigarettes, sex, and what I call the real Japanese light, the light that shines the best when you have Japanese being honest with you, truthful with you, hardworking people who devote themselves to others but can laugh, drink, fuck, and are your best friends until the very end. Strange, aren't Japanese shy and reserved? Bingo! They are now. If you truly know a Japanese person, I'm in a 13-year relationship with one to make this very clear, they are the warmest, honest, most sacrificing bohemian motherfuckers on the planet. But privately. Something gradually stole their freedom publicly. And this is what happened to us in the 80s. Our own introduction to woke. Am I exaggerating? No. We have libraries and museums. You can verify all this in films and TV records from the 50s to the 80s. Before that, it was war, so a different documentary that isn't relevant here. But before the war, all the way back to the Edo period, you will find bohemia and flamboyant culture in Japanese history. And the name that shows it the best is Izumo no Akuni, the woman who literally gave birth to a cultural movement that gave us the geisha, oran, and kabuki. Google it. Portuguese, Spaniards, and the Dutch well documented the Edo period. And if you go to any big Parisian library, you can read copies of the documents that confirm how much Japanese like to frickin' party. Before Edo, we have thousands of years of drinking, eating, celebrating, and fucking, and had everything from homosexuals to transvestites all well documented in books. Japan's most revered Buddhist saint, Kobodashi, or Kunkai, you pronounce it Kuka. Japan's most revered Buddhist saint, Kobodashi, or Kunkai, you pronounce it Kukai, was gay. Yes, a homosexual was the biggest saint and founded the Koyasan monastery complex that holds the graves of most of our important past shogun, daimyo, you name it. Woke ideology destroyed all of this. The inertia from the Tokyo 1964 Olympic success allowed Osaka International 1970s Expo to repeat another successful event that efficiency changed some of the war-stained image we had. And in the 80s, as Japanese companies finally understood how much profit can be harvested from international waters if you show a better image, profit can be made, a campaign to present the world a new face for Japan began. I must stress that even today, a better image literally means a better image. It's just at the surface level. Companies pressured employees to behave better, dress better, avoid any mistakes or flaws visible so the clients could buy as much as possible. Companies also pressured the government and politicians to do the very same. Show the best, hide everything else. The campaign gradually started to gain force and spill into our society, specifically our schools and regular businesses. As time passed, we arrived in the 2000s, and Japan is taken over by this new common sense of behaving on the surface as a better self, as the expected self, as the example of progress and a civilized citizen. This is the very image you from the outside have of us. So the campaign worked. It fixed Japan on the surface. The new common sense of behavior that gave Japanese a place in Asia was copied. And if you have a chance to visit, you can check it out happening right now in Singapore, Malaysia, Thailand, and Vietnam. These countries are on our mission to improve themselves. Eventually, they will arrive at the same estate you find us, Korea, Taiwan, and Hong Kong, on the surface. We are the very outcome of woke, and it is not good. Here is a link to a study from Suntory about unhappiness in Japan. I'm going to put this in the live chat. It's a study about unhappiness in Japan. See, I told you this was an interesting article, or an interesting letter. So here is the article in question in the chat. I hope you see it. Hang on, let me put it in the live chat again. So, yeah, you got it. So there's the article about unhappiness in Japan. And in my opinion, Suntory fails miserably in pointing out that Japan did it to itself. We have the highest suicide rate. We have the highest depression rate, the lowest birth rate, all because they wanted to improve to sell more, improve to make a profit. In Japan, common sense is called joshiki. It means everyone knows and everyone follows it. And there's an explanation here. So it's Johiski. Johiski? I don't know. It's hard to. Johshiki. Joshiki is a list of unwritten regulations and also a way to reprimand and police each other. So, for example, if you are loud in the train, someone will come to you and demand silence, but never exposing they want you to be silent. They will instead use the common sense of civilized behavior and demand you as a citizen be silent. And if you comply and just say sorry and be silent, that's fine. If you continue to be loud, they'll call you a savage, uneducated, and then they'll probably call the train conductor to put you out. Mr. Burnett, a set of non-governmental regulations that has power in a society without being included in the Constitution is a living nightmare. No Japanese is required to follow it, but they will certainly do because, 1, they were taught to follow at home and at school. 2, if they reject it, they'll be reprimanded or excluded. And 3, as a homogeneous population, they tend to abide by the environment, so there's no escape. We have no freedom. An opinion article about a Japanese immigrant. Listen, there's a lot of articles in here that I haven't read, so I have to go back and read them. But I'll put it in the live chat. I see where you're going with this. Joshike. Okay, Joshike. Is that what it is? Thank you, 200 Watt Studio. Joshike. Japanese exchanged freedom and adopted a pseudo-authoritarian system, not implemented by the government, but by themselves. Today, Japanese have many ways to cope with the current pseudo-authoritarianism. More bullet points. The emote outre behavior. Japanese will have an etiquette in public and reserve themselves to act truthfully only in private or in an environment they trust. There's an attachment explaining it. Escapism. Japanese creators are phenomenal because Japanese society gives them no leeway to be free, so they use their expression in a way Western culture does not. The movie Akira is a great example how much effort and love is poured over a movie where creators can be free. Escapism again. Japanese will invest fortunes to acquire manga, movies, games, plastic dolls, plastic wives, virtual wives, pillow wives, because in society they have no freedom, so they will buy their freedom. Japanese travel a lot because they can be themselves elsewhere. They will take pictures of everything, but because it is important for them the time they are away from here. Alcoholism. Quietly diving into alcohol oblivion and trying to survive the days. Because Japanese sacrifice a lot to maintain this charade, they absolutely hate it when you talk about the subject I'm bringing to you. Criticizing their where was I? Criticizing their joshike. Is it joshike? Criticizing their joshike is a kick in the testicles because of how much they choose to lose in order to have order. And as powerless as imprisoned Japanese feel, the more they need to police each other, to be passively angry, to be the most virtuous and victorious. Does this sound familiar? Yes, it sounds familiar because this is the current American woke behavior. And I have spent 30 years here watching it happen around me and pitying the fools. Every time I hear you read an angry letter that calls you names, I hear in my head Japanese behavior. Every time I watch some wokester on TikTok screaming about transgenderism, in my head I think Japanese behavior. These are poor souls who are willingly giving up their own freedom in the name of progress and a civilized society, but they cannot see ahead their future, where everybody will be miserable and live in fear of ostracism because the majority decided to be better. If Japan is the outcome of woke, then expect that woke culture succeeding in American soil will steal your freedom. Trust me, you do not want that. Our creators are magnificent because they feel locked in jail. We have no criminality because we're already in jail. Everybody wants to be Japanese without understanding the utter sacrifice, which is to feel lost. And you know what, Mr. Burnett? Mr. Robert Meyer Burnett? You know what? It serves them better. Woke is an illusion. Improvement is subjective. What gain do you have behaving civilized, virtuous, and embracing all races, sexualities, and cultures, but losing your honesty in the process? Does it not make sense for a human to be a human? I have no answers. Just the subject truth. If you come to Japan, you will understand. If Americans keep on the woke path, they will eventually understand. And that is a waste of love. You, sir, you know honesty, you know truth, you know your wine, and you know how time living on earth is precious. That is why you calmly answer your angry letters, because you see right through the bullshit. I'm like you too. I have my wine and my time invested on honest living, and I will share it with those I trust and love. The rest of the 8 billion are free to choose their way of living. If I choose to sit down and write this to you, I did it knowing my time was used in a loving way. So we come to the climax of my narrative, Mr. Burnett. Oh, wait, do I not want to... you know what? This part is just for me, so I don't want to read it aloud. Because it's not really pertinent to what he said. But what a fascinating analysis. You know, we hear the everyone talks about woke, 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 despite the fact where it came from. I think if we sort of have to recontextualize that, but I do think that we are seeing a lot of fake. The people want to fit in; they want to come off. Everybody wants the world to be a nicer place. Everybody wants people to be treated with respect. Everybody to be treated the way they desire to be treated, and that people should be able to lead the lives that they want to lead. But it has, I don't think it's been lost on anyone that over the last 10 years, there has been there's a weird, like I used to think the morality police would come after me dressed like the robots in THX 1138, but that's certainly not what's happened. Irony has been lost. Humor has been lost. You need an educated population to really understand humor, to really understand irony, or when someone's taking the piss. You really do. And I think that on one hand, America, I mean, our public education, I keep seeing things, the teachers are leaving education in droves because kids today have no respect for teachers or even being at school. Not all kids, but some kids. You see examples like when we are going to school. I mean, I'm Gen X. I'm not a boomer, contrary to what everybody likes to say. Whenever somebody doesn't like what I have to say, okay, boomer, it's like, it's not that I don't, the term's actually kind of funny if I was a boomer, but I'm not. I mean, I'm Gen X, man. But I do think that nowadays everyone is so quick. Here's my theory. I have a theory about this. I have always tried to make stuff. I'm always got something going on. I get gratification working with other people, going out and creating stuff. Like, here's the stuff we've made. Do you like it? Hey, check it out. I like that. I don't think a lot of people have a lot in their lives that gives them happiness. And there is online, if you want to hear the latest buzzwords or buzz phrases or get involved in whatever the latest thing is, you can join a group that will pat you on the back for believing a certain thing or saying a certain thing or agreeing with them or not agreeing with them or whatever, joining in, and you get instantaneous gratification back because that's how you're getting gratification. You can't get gratification any other way. Like if I turn off the internet, there's a million things I can go do that bring me gratification. I don't think a lot of people have that. So what they're looking for is what brings them gratification. And when you find, and the idea that you want to do something right or good, for people. And there's nothing wrong with that, but we have to fight for those who are oppressed. But what it does do is you have to find people that are oppressed. And if you can't find people who are oppressed, you have to create their oppression. And if everyone's oppressed all the time by whatever forces, then there's always something you can fight. And there's always something you can join in and say, I feel that ultimately what ends up happening is people wind up hating the society that, look, Western civilization, for all of its problems, gave us a lot of great stuff. Bill Maher did a New Rules about it. And I hear all these people, more so than I think I've ever heard. Like I wasn't a kid in the 60s. I wasn't in college in the 60s. So I didn't get to go to college and be a leftist and talk about Mao Zedong or whatever. I didn't get to do any of that. But I hear a lot of people who want to, let's destroy the patriarchy. Let's destroy America. Let's destroy all the colonizers. Let's destroy all of this. Let's take it all down. All these oppressive, all of these horrible people throughout time. You know what I don't hear though? I don't hear anything that they're going to replace it with. What's going to happen? You want to burn the world down? Well, then what? Where are you going to get hot and cold running water? Who's going to run the nuclear power plants or the coal-fired power plants or any power plant? I hear a lot of people bitching and moaning and complaining about a lot of different things. But I'm like, okay, well, I keep waiting. When are you going to replace it with something? What are you going to replace it with? You're going to tear down the world. You're going to destroy everything. And because it's unfair, it's oppressive, male patriarchy, blah, 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 fine. If you want to change the world, what are you going to do then? And no one has an answer. I don't think they've thought that far because they feel good talking about smashing the patriarchy, or they feel good getting over one on white, middle-aged cis men like me because I'm the bad guy. I get it. But then what? And I'm keep waiting. Like I love watching people speaking at colleges or whatever, and you always have some kid who's a communist talking about, well, we have to return the modes of production to the people. We have to make sure that the workers have control of the modes of production. And I'm thinking to myself, well, where did the modes of production come from? Who built those modes of production? With what money? Like who? So you're gonna control the Tesla factory. You're gonna have all the workers come in and take over. Well, who built that factory? That's a pretty expensive place to go. Like everybody wants to talk about how they're going to change something, but nobody wants to risk what they need to do to change something. Like, what are you going to do to change it? You can't just bitch and moan and complain. I mean, I feel that it used to be that people at least had some kind of idea how to replace these things. But I don't think nowadays anybody does. I don't think anyone has really thought about it. They can talk about, yes, let's smash the patriarchy. Oh, yes, and everybody will pat you on the back and put a thumbs up on whatever the hell you're speaking on, whether it's on X or Telegram or Telegraph, whatever, Telegram, or wherever, and you get your feedback. Okay, and then you can go to bed. But what if you're going to sit there and tear something down, or tear people down, or for whatever reason, and you don't have anything to replace those people with, or whatever institution you want to burn to the ground, or you want to destroy education or whatever, what are you going to be left with? A smoldering ruin. And then what? What's going to happen? Burn it all down. Live in a destroyed realm that you've created. But if you don't have something to replace it with, what are you going to do? And that's what I feel like. Let's go. People are so quick. Let's go after this person. This person's terrible. Let's pile on. There's a lot of people. I've lost 250 subscribers on this channel in the last month because I am an Israel supporter. Do I agree with dead children? Certainly not. Do I think Israel's response is horrifying? Yeah. But they didn't have a choice. I mean, it's like, this attack was planned for a long time, and it was designed to elicit this kind of response. But they don't have a choice. Whether that's right or wrong, it's horrifying all around. War is horrifying. It's awful. And a lot of people don't like the fact that I'm a supporter of Israel. One being a lifelong Jew. I mean, I've had people come. I had a guy that loved me. He was a huge fan of me. He would come to our member calls. Huge fan of me. He hates me now. It's been really interesting to watch people that I really liked. I mean, over this issue, they've decided I'm a great Satan because of it. And it's like, I can sit down and explain it to you. Do I believe in this kind of policy? Do I like what was happening in the judiciary and Israel? No. But on the other hand, I mean, same old. I've seen it my whole life. I was born I was born in 1967, when Egypt lost Gaza to Israel because they tried to destroy Israel. I mean, my whole life, Munich, Entebbe. It's as a Jew, I've lived through how many times have people in my whole life, people have tried to destroy Israel. It's not just destroying Israel. They've tried to destroy the Jews. They want all the Jews gone. There's very few of us, really. I mean, it's amazing to think there's only 15 million Jews in the world, 15 or 16 million. And Israel's a very technologically advanced place. You give the Israelis a bunch of new technology, they'll take it all, and they'll figure out how to make something new. But it's a horrible situation all the way around. The loss of human life. What do I say on this channel all the time? Every single person is the thermodynamic miracle. It's the Watchman point of view. You never know. To lose a child or to lose people that are young, you never know what they would have done. You might have gotten rid of the person that was going to cure cancer in 30 years. To have any human life cut short is a horrible tragedy. It's a damn shame, and it should not be happening. And it happens too much. It happens too much. It's a terrible, terrible thing. But in terms of, again, the issues, they're not always so black and white. And when people start, it's very interesting because you can now tell what articles people have read or which TikTok videos they've seen. And they keep parroting the same things. And there's no scholarship anymore. And I wish there was. And this is about all different kinds of issues. And look, I've said it before. I think that a healthy, educated population is the first level or first line of national defense. And I think that we've allowed our public education, when you have teachers afraid to go to school because students will beat them up, or kids will bring guns to school. And how do we let this happen? I don't know. Crazy. But anyway, it was an interesting letter, especially coming from someone who lives in a foreign country. That was a perspective of Japan that I had never thought about. So I want to thank you, and we will get in touch. So I will get in touch with you. Marcello, I will get in touch with you. So interesting. But I never thought of that perspective. And again, one of the great reasons I love this channel, and I love all you guys, and I love this show, because people take the time to write long letters like that to me. It's incredible. Science and Reason Lover says, thanks for many years of awesome entertainment. A lot of love for getting me to watch Legends of the Galactic Heroes. Yes. Yes. I hope you didn't watch the new one. I always say don't watch the new one. It's not bad, but the original is so good. The original 110 episodes of Legend of the Galactic Heroes. Not only is it my absolute favorite anime, but it's also one of the greatest science fiction television series ever made, ever, even though it was an original video animation series, an OVA series, but it truly is. So Science and Reason Lover, I love hearing that from you. And for a $20 tip, that's so nice of you. Yeah, it's so good. 1001 Johnny is back and says, dumb, dumbfounded, and Dumbo. Dumb means you cannot speak. If you're surprised you find yourself unable to speak, the baby elephant never speaks a word, so the mouse spoke for him. The West today is dumb, though, because they don't know what they're saying. The baby elephant never speaks a word, so the mouse spoke for him. The West today is dumb, though. Yeah, well, again, I think that we are, in our desire to be good, people want to pick a side. They want to jump on the bandwagon and jump right in and fight for those who are oppressed, so they feel better. The problem is they don't really know what they're fighting for or why they're fighting for it. They just know other people told them to. So it's not a great way to be. So what are you going to do? I don't know. But anyway, I don't know. Scott Bartholomew says that everyone needs to read The Lottery by Shirley Jackson. Man, I love that. I love The Lottery. It's so good, and it is so relevant. So yeah, it's good stuff. Now let me see. Do I have another letter if I should read? I was gonna get random people to go on, but I've been going for 4 hours? So I don't think I'm gonna do that. I was gonna do that pay or play thing, but will you be mad if I don't do that? Because I'm getting a little I don't know, what do you want to call it? I'm getting a little thin. Let's see. Here's one. No, that's I shouldn't read that. This is a good one. This one comes from John Ware. And he writes about Robservations 897. Greetings, Rob. I saw your episode on erotic cinema. Earlier this year, I published a YouTube video essay on how sex and eroticism can inform story and characters. Wow. I wanted you to check it out given the UCLA survey. Not only will I check it out, but I'm going to put this in the live chat. How about that? Here we go. Here it is. Here it is, his YouTube video on this very subject. It's sad that the erotic thriller has been either domesticated and or eliminated from U.S. cinema. This speaks to a larger issue of a lack of appreciation for the arts and nuanced human experience. Everything now is content, self-indulgence due to social media, and feeding the algorithm. I think erotica offered a balance between chaste films and hardcore pornography. People who dismiss sex scenes as something lacking purpose never try their logic on action scenes. Our bodies tell so much about who and what we are. Much like animation and other forms of media, it's been outsourced to other countries. Maybe an indie renaissance will bring the erotic film or thriller back to prominence. Feel free to give my video essay a viewing. I would love to hear your thoughts on it and the larger topic. Keep up the good work, John Ware. John, well, I'm going to save this. I'm going to watch this video when I get off. A bad choice of terms, perhaps. I really didn't mean to. I said it and it was already out there for me to take it back. Now, you know what? It's interesting because to me, I've always been driven by eroticism. You know, I've always been driven by my love of the feminine, and it was always something that always interested me, because the power. I mean, here's the thing. Here's what I've always found interesting about. So you can just get together and, like, when you kiss somebody, you are connecting with somebody on a level. Like, here's the thing. We all have our own experience of our own bodies. We all like if you like, I really enjoy the webbing on my finger. Like, it feels really good to do this. So everybody, we live in this physical form that stimulation of this physical form feels good. When you exercise, you can get to a point where you can feel euphoric. I like to swim. I love to be in a pool. I can, or even a bathtub, but I don't really take many baths. But I love getting in a pool. I love the feeling of water around me. I love I love drinking. I love drinking, the act of drinking. I love the actual feeling of water going into, or any liquid. Especially cold. I just love that feeling. And to me, there's nothing better than to get together with another human being, a beautiful woman or whatever, and you are both sharing your own experience of your physicality. You're experiencing it with somebody, and you let them in, and they let you in, and how you can stimulate one another, because to have somebody else stimulate you is the most amazing, I think it's the most amazing thing ever. And because it's both, it's the realization of you as a human being who understands your own physique, and yet it's also intellectual and creative and artistic and imaginative and erotic. It's all at the same time. So it's a combination of your mind and your physicality working together. And when you're with, if that makes any sense, and when you're with somebody, and you can share those things, and you both are interested in the same thing, to be a sensualist or to be erotic, I think it's to be in touch with your mental, your intellect, and your physicality, and to share in that, it's amazing. And then to want the explosive thing for me is to have a partner that wants to do things to you and wants you to do things back to them. And you should do the same. And when you think of that, it's all kind of silly, you know, but if you look at it from a distance, if you're an alien being, like even on Star Trek, there's a great episode called By Any Other Name where Barbara Boucher is trying to she's an alien in human form. She's like, I don't understand why all of you humans spend so much time, and she's hot as fuck. Barbara Boucher is so hot, and she's like to Kirk, she's this alien being that's taken human form. She's like, I've studied you. I don't understand why you spend so much time thinking about these biological acts. Kirk's like, well, I could show you. You know, it's and I understand from the outside it's probably pretty strange, but you know, you find the right person. But that's the whole thing. And I think that the drive, when you find somebody, when you find the person, and that's the thing we always want to believe. What's really weird is if you think about like men's sexuality, we think that a beautiful woman, because we think that she's beautiful, she will bring to the table all of those things for you. That she's going to be the sensualist that you are, and that you're going to, or that you think you are, or that you think you need, or whatever. And that is frequently not the case. And then there's a lot of people that don't care. There's men especially, they just wham, bam, thank you, man, and ma'am, and they're done because in their minds they just wanted to get close to the beauty, and that doesn't work for me. It takes two to tango, baby. It's a thing. It's a finesse game, and it's something that should not end after a few minutes. You work your way up. You know, I don't know if any of you had the experience, but you know, it's like in high school or in junior high when you're making out with your girlfriend, time would bend. It would take you 3 hours before you got the courage to move your hand up her shirt. I mean, anybody that was playing the finesse game or cared about it, because you didn't want her to bat your hand away. And of course, she was waiting for 3 hours. Like, why the fuck is it taking you so long to touch my boob? I've been waiting for you to touch my boob for 3 hours, man. But for us, it was 5 minutes. I mean, it's all. But the thing is, the desire to grab that, the desire to have that lust for that, it's so great dramatically. And the erotic power of stories, whether it's a film noir, whether it's an erotic thriller, whether it's a romance, a murder mystery, whatever it is, eroticism has been bled out of our culture because you don't need to be erotic anymore. You can just go on to whatever Pornhub, RedTube, whatever, XTube, what I don't know what the tubes are, but you can go there and just watch the actual final result. It's like, can you imagine just watching? It's like pornography is like watching a football game where you're only watching the last 2 minutes of the game. It doesn't matter. You just want to see the result. You just want to see the last the win. You don't want to see how you got there. But getting there is the fun of it all. It's like you already know that someone's going to win or lose. You know, especially guys, we know we're going to get to where we're going. We already know. Why be in such a hurry to get there? I don't know. I want to watch the game. I don't even know what I'm saying. Hunter Becknell says, you say you want a revolution. We all want to change the world. We do. I don't believe in Beatles. I just believe in me. A good point there. Destiny Captain says, happy 900th. Hope to be here to see you make it to 1,000. Maybe. What? Are you going somewhere, Destiny Captain? We want you here. Don't leave. Scott Bartholomew says, Big Bad Mama with Shatner and Angie Dickinson. Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. If you guys haven't seen William Shatner and Big Bad Mama, shame on you. What's wrong with you? How come? How come you haven't seen it? Don't know. Anyway, everybody. Blue Sunrise says, weird analogy doesn't work. It probably doesn't work. So I think it's time to end this. I'm sorry I didn't bring anybody on. I've been talking for almost 4 hours. I hope you don't get mad. I was going to do that pay or play thing, but perhaps another time. Listen, I do want to say a profound thanks to everybody that supports this channel that has been, I know I said it before, but I'm going to say it again. Thank you so much for being here on this journey with me. 900 shows. You know, it was John Schnepp
who told me to do a YouTube show. I didn't know what it was going to be. My first episode, if you go back and watch the first episode, it's like this documentary. There's hydroplane races in it. We go to Greg Smith's house and see him build his 1-to-1 scale land speeder. It was crazy. So, I want to thank all of you for going on this crazy journey with me. And we're going to keep doing it. And tomorrow, Dieter Bastian and I are going to be back. Don't tell Dieter I bought Pandora's box. G.W. Pabst, one of his homies. So, yeah, I want to thank you all for being here. It's been great. Thanks for sticking with me. And, yeah, you guys are great. Guys, girls, you know what? Kind souls, gentle beings, everyone is welcome here. And I really appreciate the letters. And you guys are incredible. And we'll keep going. And there's going to be more stuff to do. And I'm really excited about the Nathan Heller audio series. So, and again, we are going to crowdfund it. Todd Stashwick is Nathan Heller. It's going to be great. And it is already great, even though we just did a quick proof of concept. It's good. So come back tomorrow. And Tom Jr. Jackson, thank you. And thanks to everybody who generously supports this channel via super chats and tips. Very much appreciate it. Keeps it going. I got to get those views up and I got to get 100,000. I want to get my YouTube button. I need to work harder. I haven't worked. I've been slacking off. But anyway, thank you all. And remember, every person you meet has a story to tell that you have yet to hear. And all you have to do is listen. And with that, I say to everybody, have a better night. And hopefully somebody says, Don Ranger Power says, go Seahawks. Oh, man, it's got to be better than last week. Please make it stop. And on that note, I appreciate all of you. And thanks for joining me on this 900th episode. I never know where things are going to go. They always go differently than I thought.